We should first preface that we are both recording during very not so great weather right now. So our connections might go out here or there, but obviously you guys won't hear any of that in the edit. We'll obviously edit all that out if that happens. But just a forewarning.
If
Uh,
there's like a jump and something doesn't make sense, it's probably where there was a glitch.
Yeah, yeah. I also want to preface that there were a couple of extra things that we did want to talk about with episode one, me specifically, because there was something that when I was watching episode one again, and after I had taken notes, of course, there was something that just popped into my mind when we were talking about it last week, when we talked about last episode. There's that scene where Lucas goes to pick Peyton up goes to help her with her car, and he talks about like the no effects, and then he's like, it's me inside your head, that whole exchange that they have. And then I didn't and I watched the show 14 times now, and I don't know how I just picked up on it just now. So I feel kind of dumb. So bear with me, guys. I do feel a little bit dumb. There's the scene where he's dribbling the basketball across the bridge, and it keeps cutting back in between him and Peyton, and it looks like Peyton is just like kind of zoning out. It looks like she's kind of thinking about Lucas. But I think that also ties back into the remark that he made where he says it's me inside your head. It was very subtle. And I must have missed it after watching it 14 times. And maybe that's not even what they meant to imply with that scene, but that's what I got from it when I actually thought about it. It was almost like an aha moment. I was like, oh, wait. So she's like, I mean, originally I thought that she was thinking about their conversation from earlier, but it's also kind of like a tie in with when he tells her it's like he's inside her head kind of a thing.
Yeah, which I don't think I would have caught that. So that's an interesting little thought there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a fun little
Mhm.
tidbit.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, with all of our stuff out of the way, do you want to get into the description of the second episode, Kayla?
Oh, um, actually, before we do that, because this is a very long drung out beginning, I guess, there was
Yes.
something in episode 1 that I don't know if I'm putting too much thought into it,
Oh,
but
right. Sorry.
oh, no, you're good, like, the scene where he's telling Haley about what all the different, you know, groups of birds are, and, he states a bunch of different birds except for ravens, and then at the end of the scene, she's like, "What are ravens?" And he goes, "An unkindness." I didn't remember to say it in the last episode, but that was I kinda wondered if that was in, like, a foreshadowing moment of, like, okay, well, the high school, their team, the Ravens, and, and a group of Ravens is called an unkindness. Is that like a little foreshadowing to there's going to be a bunch of mean spirited things happening in the future?
I don't know. I can't tell you. We'll
You
have to
can't
find out.
tell
But that
me.
is I like that observation a lot. So I'm glad that you thought of that, actively thought of that observation. Because when I watched the show the first time, I never even thought about that. I never even thought about like maybe that's like a foreshadowing. So I'm glad you brought it up because there's still things there like, and that's the thing that's fun, I think, about doing this podcast with you is that like you're a new listener and I'm a very seasoned one. But even though I am a seasoned watcher, I meant to say watcher, I said listener, sorry. Uh, Even though I am a very seasoned watcher, there are things that I miss as in the scene that I just talked about where I was just like, how did I not realize that that's what that scene was kind of telling us? Um, but no, like I think it's fun that you are also picking up things that I didn't even think about and vice versa. So I think it's a very fun dynamic with us where we're just kind of picking up, other things that the other one maybe not didn't notice. So
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about television in general or stories really is everyone gets something different from it. So it's
agreed,
fun.
agreed. Yeah. But yeah, Kayla, do you want to get into our I guess our little brief information about episode two?
Yes. So today we are talking about episode 2 of season 1, and it's titled The Places You Have Come to Fear the Most. It aired on September 30th, 2003, was directed by Brian Gordon and written by Mark Schwann and Jessica, I'm going to say Queller. And the little brief synopsis here. Words are
Synophagus.
synopticus. The little synopticus here is Lucas plays his first game as a Tree Hill Raven and chokes. He isn't the only one confronting insecurities. Peyton can't find the courage to submit her drawings for publication.
That was
So,
so well said, Kayla. That was so well said. And I'm not being snarky or sarcastic by saying that. You did a very good job.
I'm glad that you liked my whatever you just called the synopsis. That I can't.
Synopticus.
Synopticus. Yes. See how good my brain is?
I think we should start saying that now. Instead of synopsis, we should just say the synopticus for this
The
episode.
synopticus.
Yeah. We're adding a new word to the English language, guys. So there you go.
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have as many fun facts about episode 2 as I did for episode 1. It was actually incredibly hard for me to find ones that I was like, oh yeah, this would be fun to talk about. Because some of them I was just kind of like, whatever. Like these aren't that great. But I will say there's a pattern with these fun facts that I have today is that they're all kind of firsts. So for example, so the first one I have is this is the first appearance of Brooke Davis. Sophia Bush is the only actor of the show who was in every single episode aside from the pilot. So she's been, I think there were 188 episodes in total for the show, and she's in 187 out of 188. So
she must have been a fan favorite then.
She best be. Sometimes I have conversations with people about One Tree Hill like that, also like the show like me. And I'm like, if you do not, so like when I get to the who's your favorite character portion of it, I'm like, if you do not say Brooke Davis, we are not friends. But of course, I'm just joking. But I mean, it's hard to find somebody that does not initially list Brooke as their favorite character of the show. So I have some people say Peyton sometimes. I have some people say Haley, but the majority of the people that I've talked to are like, no, Brooke Davis is the best character. And I'm like, I agree. So yeah, so that's the first fact I have. The next fact I have is this is the first episode in which all of the main characters appear.
Oh.
Yep. Everyone's here. The whole gang is here.
Whole gang.
Brooke finally showed up. which I have to say is really weird that like I know she wasn't in episode 1 because I guess with episode 1 they kind of filmed the pilot. And, you know, you kind of have to wait for like the network to pick it up before you are able to turn it into a series. So I get why, like, if they hadn't casted her yet, why she's not in episode 1. But my thing is like, why does everyone act like she's been there the whole time in episode 2? Like, nobody brings up like, oh, maybe Brooke was on vacation or maybe Brooke was out of town. It's just all of a sudden she's not in episode 1. And then all of a sudden she's Peyton's best friend and it has the hots for Lucas. And it's just like, where did she come from? And why is nobody mentioning the fact that she wasn't in episode 1 at all? Like they could have easily wrote that in there where it's like, oh, did you enjoy your vacation at blah, blah, blah? Because you get the sense that Brooke is obviously rich.
Yeah.
We don't want to get into it too much, but it's just, I don't know if that was weird for you when you watched episode 2, but that's always been weird to me. Every time I've watched the show back, I'm like, why did you guys not write in a line where you explain her absence in episode 1? It just feels so strange.
I didn't really think about it. I guess for me, episode 1 was more so getting kind of the groundwork for Peyton and Nathan, and then Peyton and, you know, kind of the beginnings of this relationship with Lucas. So I didn't really think too much on it because I mean, I would assume that she does have friends even if she's a loner, but I guess I didn't think too much about it. I just thought that episode 1 was kind of more focusing on that part of her life than the other parts. But
that's fair.
I don't know. I didn't think too much about it, but
yeah, but now that I'm saying it, you're kind of thinking about it. You're like, yeah, you know, that is kind of
maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, so my next fun fact is this is the first episode to feature Gavin DeGraw's I Don't Want to Be as the opening title, something that would continue until the end of the 4th season. And Kayla, you had a comment that you wanted to bring up with that.
Yeah, I think in my notes, I was just like, wait, was this this is the theme song? How did I never know this? Was this in episode 1? I was having a crisis because I listened to that song all the time as a kid, and I was watching episode 2, and when it came on, I didn't recall it in episode 1, and I didn't know what to do with my life.
Yeah, no, it is not in episode 1.
Okay.
So you're good there. You didn't mishear it or anything. No, it isn't in episode 1. And they do not to spoil too much, it's not really spoiling anything, but in later seasons they do, and I don't remember what season it is in, but it was a choice. They do this thing where they have like, which is kind of cool at the same time. I'm glad that they kind of did this because as the show goes on, it becomes a very music centric show as well.
Mhm.
Music becomes very important to One Tree Hill. Even in season one, it's pretty integral to the show, but it doesn't really pick up until season two, season three, until the later seasons. Music becomes very important to the show.
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. I'm so sorry.
That's
Oh, shit.
okay.
I was going somewhere with it and then I completely forgot. Oh, in one of the seasons, like I said, can't remember which season it is. For the intro, they sing I Don't Want to Be by Gavin DeGraw, but it's like different artists that do it every episode. And some of them I'm
Interesting.
like, ugh, like what the fuck? Like there's one episode where it's like this guy that's singing, he's like, I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. It's so weird. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, this was a choice, you guys. Like, I don't know what you guys were thinking with some of the people that you had on this show singing this intro song. It's just sorry, not to get into it, but it's really weird.
So are you saying
Very
that we
strange.
need to sing the song now? By
Oh,
we, I mean
definitely.
you.
Maybe we should. Well, why me? Why me? Why only me?
'Cause I just believe in you that much. I
Thank you,
don't think
Kayla.
I think that my voice would just, it would not be good for ears of humans.
I think it would be great. I don't think you give yourself enough credit. Although I have never heard Kayla sing, so maybe I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I just don't want to admit. I just don't want to say that you would be right without knowing. So it'd be rude. But I would be that friend. I would be that friend that told you, "Oh yeah, maybe don't go on American Idol like these other people." Because you watch American Idol, they're like, "Yeah, my whole family, all my friends tell me I should go on here," and they sound like trash. And it's like, you need to get better friends and, maybe a better
Yeah,
family too, because they're lying to you. I'm so sorry.
yeah. Well, I can say that I have been told I have a an okay voice, but I would not be making records. It's one of those where you're like, "Yeah, that's fine for around the house, that's fine."
That's
And you're
fine
not
for
gonna
in
be
the
mad.
shower.
Like, you're not gonna be mad about it, but you're not gonna buy it for an album either, so
Yeah.
and you know what? I'm okay with that.
You have other talents. It's fine. um, but I do have one more fun fact here. So this episode introduces Peyton's art, which will have relevance during the entire series. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting fact. Although we do see a tidbit of her artwork or like her interest in art in the first episode when she's kind of clipping those things together on her computer when Nathan walks in. Uh,
Yeah, but not like the sketches.
yeah, not to the extent that it is in this episode. We learn a lot about Peyton in this episode.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes, we do.
yeah, but yeah, with all that stuff out of the way, would you like to get into the plot breakdown?
Oh, so scene 1 here?
Oh yeah, start from the top, girl.
Well, I actually thought the first scene was kind of hilarious, and I'm so sorry, don't kill me, people who love the first scene, but it was just kind of like, we just got a previously on One Tree Hill,
Mm.
and then all of a sudden, all the characters are breaking down exactly what happened in the last episode. I'm like, "Didn't they just show us this?"
Yeah, it's added exposition that if we're watching the show, we don't need to hear again. So it does feel a little bit awkward to hear the characters say these things, like basically, oh, they might as well have just said in previously on instead of having the little
Yeah.
intro, we should have just had the character say that. Previously on One Tree Hill, Skills, did you know that I won the basketball game against Nathan? Oh no, I didn't know that. But even though I was there, but maybe the audience doesn't remember. I don't know. It's just like weird things like that sometimes where I'm like, okay, we don't need the characters to break the fourth wall here and basically tell us
Yeah,
what happened last episode. We are
it
watching the
was
show. We know what
funny.
happened. It is, yeah.
I was like, "Why would you do this?" But okay.
Yeah, it's a choice for sure. But what I will say is like, yes, the scene is a bit silly with the added expedition that nobody needed. But I do like their conversation a little bit because he's kind of telling them Lucas is kind of downplaying it a little bit because they're kind of like the rest of them, like Fergie, Junk, Skills, Mouth, all of them are trying to, hype him up like, oh, are you excited to, play your first game like as an official Raven? And they're like, we would love to come and see you. And Lucas is almost kind of downplaying it, like, "Oh, you guys don't have to come see me. It's fine."
Yeah.
But then Skills says a line that I really like. He said, "You may have won, but you kind of won for all of us. Like this is a win for all of us, not just you. You know, like kind of like a ragtag. I can't talk today. You know, he's almost kind of saying it like he's a ragtag team of misfits that they have on this river court. And
Mm.
I like that he says it's a win for all of us. I kind of like the way he says that.
Yeah, that was a nice one. I think, sometimes I forget to write down the nice moments when I'm being sarcastic, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Um, but I mean, I also really like the scene with Keith and Haley too, because they're in the cafe. They're at Karen's cafe and they're trying to
Uh,
convince Karen to go. And I do like Karen as a character, I really do, but she kind of bothers me in this episode because one, she just makes up stupid excuses not to go, which I also understand why. We do get a better conversation a little bit later with her and Keith where she kind of explains her reasoning. But I hate that she like makes excuses and kind of lies to Lucas and doesn't tell him the real reason why she didn't show up. That bothers me a lot.
yeah, but I also feel like it's a very real response, and I also think because Karen is, like, a very young mother, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that it's kind of a real response to something like that, especially when, like, she's gotta be what, in her, like, early to mid-30s, like, which you're an adult and you have a fully functioning, like, brain and everything, but I think you are still relatively young at that point in time. So I don't know, for me, it was realistic, but I guess I could see where that would bother some it would bother me as the child, but
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like to me, instead of just telling him the truth, she kind of just does a wraparound way of being like, "Oh, damn, are you hearing it from
is
my
that
end?"
thunder?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard that.
we got a storm going on over here in Kansas right now, so that's fun. I do like the scene because Keith is trying to convince her to go, and she's like, "No, I think I'll stay open. It'd be good business for the cafe." Which I'm like, if everybody's at the game, they're not going to be at the cafe. But sure,
Yeah, but
sure.
I really did like the Haley. She doesn't wanna go, she doesn't wanna see her high school sweetheart, slash your brother Dan, slash the Drake who abandoned Lucas, slash the father of Nathan, the team star player, slash my wrist if I have to hear the story again.
Yeah. Oh, Haley's sense of humor, love it.
I was just like, "But wasn't that all at this us all at this point?" We were just kinda like, "Yeah, you know what? Fair."
Yeah, we got it. We got
We got
all
it.
of it from episode 1, you know? I love that she's kind of almost telling that as, like, as if it's we as audience members saying that, you know? She's kind of saying what the audience is thinking, and I kinda
Yeah.
love that. So, we go from Keith and Haley and Karen at the cafe to Dan and Nathan, and Dan is basically telling Nathan to shut Lucas out because he's like, if he can't score a shot, he can't play, basically. Then it cuts to them in the locker room, and Nathan is just glaring over at Lucas, like as he goes into his locker. And again, we get that, which I didn't think it was quite as funny the second time because Whitey does the Scott thing again, where he calls Scott, and they both look, and
Yeah.
he points to Lucas and has them come to his office. And I was like, oh, I don't think we needed to do that bit again. Like, I think we did it. I think it was really good in the first episode, and then the second episode, it was kind of like, okay, we get it. They're both named Scott. You don't need to call them by their last name. Just say Lucas. Like it just felt like we were rehashing a joke that was done so well in the first episode that didn't need to be there in the second. I don't know how you thought about that, but that's how I felt.
I don't think I looked at it so much as a joke in the second one as I did in episode 1. I think for the second one, I looked at it more as this is gonna get under Nathan's skin to be basically reminded of like, he's got all this pressure from his father, and then now all of a sudden there's this other thing, meaning this other person that exists because of his father,
Yeah.
and that was kind of my interpretation of it, of the first time was a joke, the second time was him just feeling suffocated by his father, by the fact that Lucas exists and is now in this area that was his space.
Right. Right. Yeah,
But
I can see it from your point as well. For me, I just was like, okay, because I felt like they were just trying to do that joke again, and for me, it fell flat this time because they'd done it so well in the first episode. So I was kind of like, ugh. But I can see from your point of view why they put it in there. But and then Tim says he can't believe the bastard Spawn is on the team.
like, who even I mean, I guess I don't know in 2003. In 2003, I don't think I put that too much thought into children outside of wedlock, but I know I'm just like, who even cares about that anymore? But I guess maybe people did in 2003. I don't know.
Well, and it's also like a small town too, so
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I did grow up in one of those, so I guess I can kind of see that.
yeah.
But it was random to me. Um,
Definitely. So they're in Whitey's office and he's asking Lucas if he's nervous and Lucas is like a little bit and he's like, "Good. It'll, it's good for being the nerves are good for you." And he hands Lucas's jersey with the name Scott on the back and the number 3. So that's Lucas's jersey, which is why I have this hanging out back here, this baby for anyone who's watching the video version of this, or if we put clips of it on Instagram, social media stuff, you'll see this in the hanging on in the background. But yeah, so he gives him his jersey. And then they go out. This is one of my favorites. I love this scene when Mouth and Jimmy are waiting
yeah.
outside and they go up to Lucas and they're asking him all these questions. And then Whitey's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing back here?" And then they're like, we're sports announcers. And they have like ravenshoops.com like on their shirts. And Whitey's like, "No media." And then Jimmy and Mouth are like, "He just called us media.
It's like,
Cool." Like they're
yeah,
so excited about it.
just like it's like not just that. It's no, they said not just media, banned media,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they just look so excited about it.
Which I guess kind of you kind of had a little prediction in episode 1 about what Mouth would do. You're like, if he had a YouTube channel, he would. So I mean, this isn't really YouTube, but it's still very similar.
It's in the same vein, I guess.
Hmm.
So,
So that's something you got right from episode 1. So good job.
yay.
But yeah, so then we get this shot in the gym, this scene in the gym where Haley and Keith show up, and you get that snide remark from Dan where he's like, "Oh, you finally came to see my nephew play, your nephew play," and he's referring to Nathan, obviously, even though he knows that Keith and Haley are there to see Lucas. He's just being an asshole.
Yeah, I think that also obviously, I don't really know much about Keith and Nathan's relationship, but I thought it kind of showed him being closer to, like, Karen and Lucas than obviously Dan and Nathan. So I thought it was kind of like a I don't know, like a double kind of
Edge sword.
yeah,
Yeah,
like what you said, and then also showing the audience which nephew he's even closer to.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I haven't seen him with Nathan, I don't think yet, so
No, I don't think they've had a scene together yet. Yeah,
mm.
no, I don't think they have. So then we get this awkward exchange with Dan and Lucas because Dan basically is trying to talk to Nathan. So he says son, and Lucas just awkwardly turns around and looks at Dan.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ooh, that's awkward.
Yeah, that was harsh, and I know the first time I watched it, I was like, "Okay, so he's talking to Nathan," and obviously Lucas just turns around, but the second time, I was kind of wondering if he did it to kind of fuck with Lucas, but I don't think so in this scene, but I do think he did in another scene.
Oh, yeah, no, that is a very, very good point, Kayla. I can see why you thought that.
Yeah, and then, like, I know didn't Nathan, like, pass him the ball or something, and he comes up to him and he's like, "Wake up," and
Yeah.
first time around, I thought he was just talking about, like, the basket like, with playing basketball, but the second
Mm.
time around, I was like I thought, "Does this have a double meaning? Is he meaning wake up, like, as in get your head into High School Musical, get your head in the game," or is he also kind of referring to the fact that he turned around when Dan said son, like, also wake up, like, that's not your dad.
That is very interesting. I really love that you thought about that because again, another thing I didn't really think of as being a double meaning, but now that you say that, I'm like, that's probably exactly what they meant it to be. Actually,
Yeah,
like him being like, wake up, like get your head in the game, but also wake up, he's not your dad and he never will be, you
yeah,
know?
that was my interpretation, and I'm not sure if that's what they intended, but that's what it came off as to me.
Oh, for sure. Now that you said that,
Mhm.
I'm like, how did I not pick up on that? But there's certain things that I really pick up on, and then there's other things just go over my head sometimes, you know?
Yeah, well, it's okay. I'm sure there are a lot of things that go over my head as well, so
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's I love that you brought that point up because like I said, that kind of went over my head. So great job, Kayla. Kayla's bringing all the insight in this episode today. I don't know what the hell I'm doing,
I'm
but
either bringing all the insight or all the overthinking and putting meaning to things that there are no meaning. Either way, I'm gonna take the credit.
you should take the credit because you're standing me up today. You're definitely doing a lot better than me today. I don't know where. I think I'm just distracted right
It's
now
the
with all that's
rain.
going on outside. Yeah. So I'm sorry to the listeners if I sound super distracted or like my brain is not here. It is here. I'm just like dealing with multiple. It's my ADHD. I did preface that in episode 1 that I do have pretty bad ADHD, and so I get very very distracted. So
It's okay. It's fine.
that's for the listeners to know and keep in mind when we do future episodes that sometimes I may, you know, wander off every once in a while. But so then we get this next scene with Kayla.
Ooh.
Would you like to do a drum roll? We get the best character in the show, Brooke Davis. She
Yay!
gets a very special introduction, not to take away all the other characters of One Tree Hill, but Brooke Davis is clearly the best one. So just going to say that right now. And I am going to say I am biased with saying that because I know how her character continues on through the series and she is the best character in the show. So
I have not much to go off of right now except for Sophia Bush is lovely, so that's all I have to go off of.
yes, we are Sophia Bush stans in this house. So yeah, we love Sophia Bush.
She's so pretty.
She
Seems
is.
so sweet.
She's gorgeous. Someone asked me, one of my friends that saw that I was doing this podcast, they asked me, they're like, so what if you ever had Sophia Bush on the show? And I was like, I would probably cry, throw up, and have a panic attack all at the same time, but it would be good because can you imagine her coming on our
You
show?
you would die, and then we'd have to bring you back to life.
I would die, and then probably Sophia Bush would have to take over the show for me because I wouldn't be here.
That would be your dying wish.
It would, yeah. That and getting to meet Taylor Swift in person, obviously. So
Isn't that I was gonna say, isn't that everyone's dream?
that
But
should be everyone's
I
dream.
guess it's very split.
Yeah.
For me, it's a dream, but
Yeah. Me and Kayla at least share that dream. So
yeah.
um,
All right. So, here is where I thought my prediction from episode 1 was going to come through. I know we said we were saving that, but because Brooke says, "So that's the boy who beat Nathan? Looks good from behind." And I was like, "Oh, am I about to be right here?"
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens later.
Oh, definitely. So then we get like the game beginning and Lucas is clearly not playing the way he normally does. Like he is missing like shots left and right. He's dropping the ball, he's fumbling it, and then he misses a pass and he hits Peyton with it instead. And Peyton kind of like gives him a remark where she's like, "Nice hands," and then he like retorts back, he's like, "Nice legs." It's so funny.
That got me. I was like, that was funny. That was a good one.
Yeah. So then Whitey ends up putting Lucas on the bench, and Nathan and Dan are both kind of like smirking and, being the douchebags that they are.
And Dan seemed to be smiling even when Lucas was still in the game and he wasn't doing very well. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how big of an asshole do you have to be satisfied about not, let alone like, not, let's pretend it's not even his kid, but a kid's like embarrassment or failure just because you have some stupid grudge.
I know. It's like, how do you go home and sleep at night knowing that you are actively wanting to watch the downfall of freaking child? Like he's still a child. Like you are actively participating in wanting him to fail. And it's just so, oh my gosh. It's like, Dan, you are a terrible person. You are horrible.
Yeah, and it's not even like this kid did anything to him. It's like, oh, he exists. Guess I gotta be happy if he's embarrassed. Okay.
Yeah, Dan is something. Dan is a piece of work. Let's just say that. That's putting it nicely. But then we get this scene after the game where Nathan and Peyton are in Nathan's car and they're like totally going at it. They're like making out. And this is, I want to bring this up. I was like, because even my friend Alex was like, that's weird that he was 17 and she was in her 20s. And I'm like, that's not her fault. That is casting's fault. Like, why? I don't understand why you would cast someone like that is that young and he's supposed to play the love interest, or I guess like the boyfriend of somebody who's older than him in real life. It's just, it's very, and even if he was of legal age, because I don't know what the age of consent is in North Carolina, I'm assuming it's 17 because these scenes were allowed to be filmed. But it is still weird that he is kissing like a full grown adult and he is still a child.
It's weird because you see that a lot in Hollywood. Wasn't Chad Michael Murray, like, in his 20s and Hilary Duff was, like, 16 in A Cinderella Story?
Probably.
It's what I
Yeah.
remember hearing. I don't know how true it is. I just remember hearing it when I was a kid.
Knowing Hollywood, that probably is what the truth is. Because, well, and it's the same. My friend Alex also brought up the fact that Mila Kunis was only
14,
14 when
yeah.
she did that 70 show. And I was like, yeah, well, that's because she lied about her age. So,
And I would just like to say that I knew someone who said that Mila Kunis, and this was when he was, like, 23 years old, he was like,
mm,
"Mila Kunis was a lot hotter in the season 1, then she got ugly in, like, the season where she was 14."
ew,
Yeah.
ew. That's, mm-mm,
So,
I don't like that.
and he wants to be a director, so he'll fit right in Hollywood.
Oh, Lord. Hopefully we don't
Yeah.
have another Mark Schwann on our hands. Oh God, that made me feel nasty. I didn't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, back to the
Yeah.
scene. So, they're, like, going at it, and Nathan just keeps laughing, and quite honestly, before stated why he was laughing, I thought he was laughing because he thought something was funny that she was doing. Like, I'm like, "Is there something hilarious that I'm not seeing? Like, does he, like, not like French kissing or something? Is she, like, sticking her tongue in his mouth and he's laughing? Like, what's going on?" I was
Yeah.
very confused at first about why he was laughing.
Well, and she obviously is too, because she keeps giving him looks like, "What?" Like,
Yeah,
because he like, they'll start going at it, and then he'll start laughing, and she's like, "What? Like, what are you doing?"
yeah, at first I thought too, like, aside from that, maybe, okay, is he somehow nervous? Because that's a very different thing than I would have ever guessed, and then no, he was just being an asshole.
Well,
So
and it's also, like, the first time it's interesting that you brought up that, because when I watched it the first time, for some reason, I was like, "Is he breaking character?" And they just decided to keep this in the scene because it's kind of, I guess, when he first started laughing, not once he got to the explanation of why he was laughing, but that thought went into my head. I was like, did they just leave that in there as like a blooper? Like he's actually breaking character because he, because it is
yeah.
like, I feel like I've never done a sex scene or even a kissing scene for anything, but I can imagine that's probably a little awkward and uncomfortable at sometimes. So I was thinking maybe he was laughing because he was nervous or uncomfortable about something.
Yeah.
But then it gets into the explanation that he like is basically dogging on Lucas for being so bad. And Peyton is like, why are you so like active about, the downfall of Lucas? Like it's a little played out.
Yeah.
And then
And
he
I know
accuses her of liking him too, like having feelings for him.
yeah, because he's like, "Do you ever think I just wanna talk?" And which would be a fair point if that is what he actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, you don't. You wanna celebrate a public humiliation, and I'm sorry that's a little played out." And then he was just like a total dick and says, "And being with you isn't." I don't know how that is the response you come up with to the person that you supposedly, like, care about.
Well, when it comes from Nathan's mouth, it's a very appropriate response because we would expect Nathan to say that, especially after what he said in episode 1, where he's basically like, "Oh, I can't go get someone else." Like, it's just,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand this child. I mean,
yeah,
I
but
guess I do to an extent because of his home life, but we'll get into that later.
yeah, but I do appreciate that Peyton gets out of the car and doesn't like get back in the car even when he's asking her to, because she gets out of the car, she refuses to get back in, and he's like, "Come on, Peyton." And then he just leaves her. He throws her pom poms, and then he's like, "Take your lame music too," and throws her CD out the window and just leaves her out in the middle of nowhere. Like we don't even know where she's at this point, but it looks like it's like in the middle of nowhere, completely abandoned. So it's like, one, you leave your girlfriend in an abandoned place where anything could happen to her. Like, I understand that you live in a small town, so maybe things like that don't always happen in your town. But even then, it's like, that is so disgusting Like, even if I
Yeah.
got into a fight with my significant other, I would never leave them in the middle of nowhere by themselves. Like, that's not a thing I would ever do.
Yeah, I don't how is I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't know. But,
Yeah,
oh,
well
the, one thing about this scene to take away from, the sad dramatics of it for a minute, I think she goes something like, "Damn it, Nathan, that was an import," talking about her CD, and
yeah.
I felt like it really aged
Oh, definitely. Because she's like,
the
"Damn it, Nathan,
show.
that CD was hard to find. It's an
Yeah.
import." Yeah,
I'm like, "Yeah, today you just go on Spotify and it's fine."
pretty much, yeah. Back in, like, 2008, though, it was, did you ever use LimeWire or whatever that was called?
I know that I did, I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but yes.
Yeah, before Spotify, there was LimeWire.
Mhm.
Um, but then we get this really great scene at the cafe, where Keith walks in after the game and Karen asks him how it went, and he was like, "You should have been there." And then I can understand Karen's, like, retort to Keith, but at the same time, this is another scene that kind of rubbed me the wrong way about Karen because she's initially like she's blaming Keith for going and putting him on the team in the first place. Initially, the first time I watched the scene, I was a little put off by her response because he's like, "You should have been there," and she's like, "Well, you never should have gone to Whitey." And so to me, when I first saw that scene, I was like, "Oh, so you don't even believe in Lucas?" Like it kind of rubbed me. But then she gets more into it about why she didn't want him on the team. And she's like, I should have been there. Like she actually kind of realizes that she is in the wrong in the situation, that she should have gone. But then she
Yeah.
explains to Keith that she's not quite over her history with Dan and she just can't go back there.
Yeah, I think she says the place knows too much.
Something, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's
Like,
like too many painful memories.
yeah, that's interesting because you and I had very two different reactions to the way that that scene was. I think I was a little bit more, even though I knew she should have been there for her son. I think, I don't know, I think it kind of is that, that when you're younger and you don't see your parents as people, they're just your parents. And then you get older and you realize that your parents are just people. And I
Yeah.
thought that I don't know, I guess I felt that kind of reminded me of when you figure that out, even though Lucas isn't in this scene and showing that parents are humans. And I think because to me, even though it was something she should have been there for, it wasn't like she never shows up for him. So that's why I was able to kind of, I think, sympathize with her a little bit more instead of just being just like mad.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we got 2 totally different things out there. Like, yes, I do feel like she should have been there for him, but to me, it showed a very human side of being a parent, of not of kind of messing up and then realizing that you did.
No, I mean, that's completely valid. And I also see that from that scene, obviously watching it from a more I guess season perspective. I was just explaining like how I felt about the scene the first time I watched it, as I was just kind of like,
Oh,
oh. But now, I mean, now that I've watched this show for so many years, I kind of feel this exact same way about you that you do about the scene. So, but I mean, obviously, she immediately like realizes that she should have been there. So like her recognizing that like shows that she's human, and sometimes we all make mistakes and we all have flaws. And I do like how that scene kind of paints that a little bit where
yeah.
she's willing to admit that she was wrong, but she's also willing to be vulnerable and explain why she couldn't be there, and like it gives us more context as to because we already kind of get the context of why she didn't go. It's very obvious from episode 1, but we
Mhm.
kind of get into it a little bit more where we find out that maybe she's not completely over Dan. Like maybe somewhere in her heart she still kind of has feelings for him and has a little bit of love for him. And I kind of
Oh, I
thought that
hope
was
not.
interesting. Oh God, I don't know how you could love that. Just
I'm
saying.
hoping more so that, of course, like, I'm probably wrong. I'm hoping more that she's over him, but not what he did.
Right, right.
Because I would hate to think that she still has feelings for him, because that man is oh.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Johansson is very handsome, like the actor that plays Dan. He's a very good-looking man, but God, is he a
He's
terrible person in this show? Like, I'm like,
mm,
how did you get Karen in the first place? Because Karen seems completely the opposite of him. Like, she's obviously headstrong and confident, but at the same time, it's like those personalities, they just don't mesh.
Maybe he wasn't as much of a dick in high school. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we find out he's had dickish moments, but maybe he wasn't full-fledged. But maybe he was, who knows? Sometimes
Yeah.
sweet people end up with assholes, so.
Isn't that the way?
So, the next scene at the park, Lucas is shooting and he's missing, and then that's when Peyton shows up, and she's basically just like, "Well, it's just a game," and she starts talking about like, "Well, who cares if the whole, school and half the town saw you suck?" And he's just like, "So clearly you've come to cheer me up."
Yeah. Yeah, Lucas is like, "Yeah, clearly you've come to cheer me up for sure." And she's like, I wrote in my notes, I was like, she gives him a pep talk, or does she? Because I thought it was funny how she kind of seems like she's gonna give him a pep talk, and then she goes into the whole like what you just said about, oh, why does it matter if the whole town saw you suck?
Yeah.
It is kind of humorous, but then he offers her a ride home. So he's like,
Yes.
"Do you need a ride?" And then it goes from that scene to Dan sitting in the living room of his house, and he's watching back, which I'm like,
How,
how did
like
you get the recording of that game so quick?
well, that's what I'm saying, like, my notes, I'm like, "How is this motherfucker already watching the game again?"
I mean, maybe he could have got it off of one of the people that was filming it, but I'm like, that seems very soon because like the basketball game is literally like not even 2 hours ago. You already are watching this back. It's
Yeah,
very,
I'm
very
like,
strange.
he has a job, does he do anything else with his free time other than find ways to criticize his son?
Apparently not, because he's Dan Scott, and that's all. I mean, that's all he thrives off of is like putting down other people and pointing out all their flaws and insecurities, and building himself up because he's obviously very insecure inside. So
Yeah, like, I know when Nathan comes home and he's telling him because excuse me, I don't know my terms or anything, but Nathan is being, like, blocked by 2 other players, so he passes the ball to another member on his team, and they make the basket,
hmm,
and his dad's just like, "You gave up the scoring opportunity in the post," and I'm just like, "Okay, well." And Nathan's just like, "Dad, I scored 28 points," and Dan says, "30 points would have looked better to the scouts." Now, to those listening, please correct me if I'm wrong, but, I could be just me because I'm ignorant on this topic, but wouldn't it look worse to take the shot because you wanted all the glory to yourself, even if this
yeah,
means missing instead of playing the way he did, which is,
right,
which gave them the point? I thought that this was supposed to be like
a
a
team game.
team sport. Yeah, like
Well, as we know of Dan Scott, he is not a team player, has never been, and will never be. So, I mean, it like makes sense for him to say that, but I
yeah,
totally understand what you're saying. And like, it also kind of gives a perspective to Nathan a little bit that he's not entirely as selfish as we think he is at the start. Like, he is actually willing to like pass the ball and involve his other teammates, even if it doesn't make him look like the star, like always look like the star. Um, and I do like that you brought that up because it does give definitely different sides to their character, which obviously you get Dan, who is very self-centered, very selfish, doesn't think about anybody but himself. And then you get like a little glimpse of Nathan where he actually, even though passing the ball was a minuscule thing that doesn't normally even matter, but it's like it kind of shows that he's willing to be a team player and Dan is
yeah,
not. So I'm glad you brought that up because that definitely brings a perspective to that scene that is very important to talk about. I feel like with their characters, kind of setting their characters apart a little bit. I mean, Nathan is still kind of a
yeah.
dick, but there's something there, like I said in the last episode, where there is a little bit of human in there, where we kind of get glimpses of it. Very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah, I think I have. Let me see if I can find it. Dan also tells him that I looked winded before the quarter and that tomorrow they're going to go on a run. And Nathan says, and you wonder why mom extends those business trips. Oh, but
Ouch.
now I'm not coming to Nathan's defense as far as like everything he's been doing is justified because of his home life, but I think it really shows why he is the way he is and why he is the way he is towards Peyton because he's constantly getting criticized. And even though it's wrong to take it out on other people, he probably feels a little good to take it out on someone else when he's constantly being criticized.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I haven't seen his mother in this show yet, but I can only imagine maybe he doesn't, but I could imagine that maybe Dan criticizes his mother a lot as well if she's so eager to stay away for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to spoil anything for future episodes, but save that thought for later and we'll talk about it when it comes. But yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so then we get to the scene of Lucas and Peyton in Lucas's car, and he asks her why she does it, like why she's a cheerleader. And she's like, well, she's like, if I say I like cheerleading, then she's just like every other cheerleader. But if she says that she doesn't, she's either a liar or a fraud. So there's like part of her that likes it because she's saying if she admits that she doesn't like it, then she's a liar or a fraud. So she obviously, there's a part of Peyton that does enjoy cheerleading, but there's also a part of Peyton that equally despises it at the same time because it goes against everything that Peyton is, kind of about.
Yeah.
So I do like this scene because she also adds that it's a lose-lose situation. Like she's like basically like I lose either way. So I
Yeah,
like the fact that she kind of explains that a little bit.
yeah, and I think it's so funny because oops, sorry, my phone. I feel like that's a very high school mentality, which makes sense because 'cause they're in high school, because in reality, if you like something, shouldn't you just like it? Even if it makes you
Right.
like other people or not? But I think that she very much so prides herself on being different, and I think when you feel very different, you do pride yourself on that, but the older that I've gotten, I feel like most people feel like they're incredibly different.
Yeah.
I think most people feel that way, it's just other people, I think, are better at hiding it.
Oh, definitely. And I think it also kind of gives because I feel like in episode 1 you kind of get the feeling that Peyton is very confident in herself and she's very secure, especially the way she stands up to Nathan and the way she doesn't take crap from anybody. But then in this episode, you definitely see a lot of the vulnerable side of Peyton where that you did not see in the first episode, which
Yeah, and
we'll get into with later scenes. But even in this scene, she's giving a lot of vulnerability. Like she's saying something that I
Mhm.
don't feel like she would normally tell Brooke or Nathan or anybody that she's friends with at school. Like this is not a conversation she would have with somebody that she's really close with.
Yeah, and I think that's why because I wasn't the biggest Peyton fan in episode 1, and then episode 2 came around, and I was like, "Okay, like, actually, I like you."
Yeah. Yeah. And like
Um
there's definitely, like I said in the first episode, there's definitely more layers to unpack with Peyton, and you get a lot of layers in this episode. A
Mhm.
lot. Like you get a lot of different perspectives of Peyton, and it's I love it.
Yeah. I wanna know how you feel about this because I laughed, but I'm also like, "Hey, that was kinda mean, but at the same time hilarious, but also mean." She asked if Lucas wants to come in, and he's just like, "What about Nathan?" She goes, "What about him?" And when he ends up following to her to the door, she's like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah.
she's just like, "I didn't invite you to come in, I just asked if you wanted to," and then just leaves him on the porch.
But then you kind of see Lucas like smirk a little bit, like he's kind of loving this like cat and mouse kind of the chase kind of thing. No, I think it's funny, but I also am like, come on, Peyton, you knew what you were doing, you little
I'm like,
tease.
"Why?" I'm like, "What was the point?" But it was also funny.
Yeah.
But if it
Yeah.
were real life, I'd be like, "Are you why would you even do that? That's so weird."
Yeah.
But in the show, it's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Then Lucas comes home, and Karen's just like, "Oh, we were busy at the cafe," and she apologizes for missing the game, which I know you're not the biggest fan of. And then I can't remember if there was much more to that scene because that's the only thing I wrote down.
No, it is a very short scene because he comes home and, she's like, "How was the game?" And she's like, "The cafe was good." And he was like she's like, "So it's good that we stayed open, right?" And he's like, "Whatever." And she's like, "Lucas, I'm sorry that I wasn't there." And then he kinda looks at her and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry too." And then just walks away.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was a
Yeah.
very short one.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so then we have Peyton on her webcam again, doing whatever the hell she does on there. And Nathan calls, and I like that because this is, you know, she turns up the volume and then places the phone right by the speaker
Yeah.
so that he hangs up and ends up calling back. But I really liked this scene because he I do feel like it was a genuine apology. I don't think that I feel like it was a little manipulative to be like, say that's okay so that, tomorrow we can go back to being whatever that line was. So I
Yeah,
think that part was a bit manipulative, but I do think the apology itself was genuine, even if the ending was a bit,
manipulative. Yeah,
yeah. I think that he maybe didn't know that he was being that way. I think he was maybe being hopeful, like, as a teenager and not realizing
yeah,
that way that was,
definitely.
but I do think the apology was genuine, and I wanted to know if you thought that that was a genuine apology.
I do think it's somewhat genuine, but I also just think he's kind of doing what he normally does, where he, instead of just like apologizing for his behavior, he has to constantly make excuse after excuse after excuse about why he did it. And it's more so just like, why don't you just apologize and man up and like admit the fact that you were a dick instead of making excuses. But I also did see like the genuine kind of emotion come through with him as well, because she's like, Nathan, I'm tired of this. Like Peyton's like, Nathan, I'm tired of this. And he's like, I know. And he's like, I know I haven't been treating you well lately. So he at least acknowledges it, that he hasn't been treating her as well lately. Cause we
Yeah.
don't get really much context about how him and Peyton were before episode one. Like we don't get
Mm.
what if their relationship was ever good, you know?
Yeah, 'cause and I definitely see the thing about there being, like, excuses, and I guess I'm looking at it sometimes you're a teenager and you don't exactly know what an appropriate apology is. Hell, even a lot of adults don't know what an appropriate apology is.
Yeah.
But I do think that he genuinely was sorry this time.
Yeah.
However, like, I don't think that she owes him anything, even if he was genuinely sorry. And I like where it kind of shows a little bit more of her sketches where it's like, she's like, it's okay. And then while drawing, it's not okay. And
Mm,
kind of
yeah.
showing that she maybe doesn't stand her ground as much as she would like to admit that she does.
Yeah. Which ties back into like we get more of a vulnerable side with her. So she's like, she doesn't give off as much as that tough exterior that she does in episode one, where she's just kind of very dry, pretty much a bitch to everybody that she comes into contact with in episode one. Let's be real. She's kind of a bitch.
Mhm.
But also like with her and Nathan, like it's perfectly acceptable. But I'm talking about like when she's talking to Lucas, like she's kind of just a bitch most of the time, except for like a couple of little scenes where she kind of has like glimpses of, you know, where
Yeah.
she's kind of nice. But in this episode, you definitely get a lot of the different sides of Peyton. And I really, really think it was very well done how they did that in this episode for sure, especially with the scene that's going to come a little bit later. But I also like how when she answers the phone, she's the second time she's like, sorry, Peyton's not here, just her lame music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
funny. Um, but yeah, so then we get kind of like a montage of Lucas the next day trying to like shoot baskets, and he's missing every single one, and it's like he's lost kind of his touch a little bit.
Yeah. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
But then we kinda have but we're in their English class,
Yeah.
I believe, and the teacher's asking them to, like, trying to explain how sometimes less is more, and he asks Peyton to describe Lucas in one word because, of course, out of everyone in class, he would choose him. Uh,
Yeah.
and she says, "Choke." I'm like, "Damn, that was mean."
Well, I think what he says is even more mean, but I don't think he means it in a malice. Like, I don't think he means malice when he says it, but it's like it's like you hear the whole class go, ooh, because he's like, describe Peyton, and he goes, lonely.
Yeah. See, that's interesting because I actually don't think it was mean. I think that it was observant.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
I don't
think yeah.
I don't think it was mean, but I think from the outside perspective of like all the people in class, including Peyton, they kind of take it that way where they're like, damn.
Yeah. It hits a little close to home for her.
Yeah.
And then, you can tell I think Nathan actually feels a little bad about that, but also I'm wondering if he can tell that there's a little something going on there, and that's why he's like, "I have a word to describe Lucas," and he says bastard, and then obviously it's when Lucas tackles him, and then we cut to commercial break.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get that scene of Whitey in the office, and I won't give away the quote because I think you were talking about how you wrote this quote down, so we'll save it for after. But he's basically like yelling at Lucas, and he's like, you ran away or something like that, and Lucas is like, I didn't run away, that's why I'm here. I appreciate the scene because, you get one side of Whitey kind of telling him he's like, oh, you just have one bad game and you run away, and then Lucas is like, I'm not running away, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. So we're in the locker room, and someone's just like, "So what happened after you tackled him?" And Nathan's just like, "Kelly broke it up any longer, and I might have destroyed him." I'm just like, "Yeah, okay." And then
Well,
I
and then
like
Jake
that.
basically says what we're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I have on there. I don't know how to say his last name because that was before I knew his first name.
Jagelski.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have on there that he basically calls bullshit on Nathan, and then like Whitey walks in. I'm just like, there are a lot of references to being women in the locker room, and I'm just like, "What is okay, guys, sure, sure."
Yeah. Well, because Nathan is talking to Tim. That's the other character that was talking to Nathan. Tim is asking Nathan like what happened, and so Nathan is obviously lying, and then Jake basically calls him out on his shit, and he's like, what do you know about it? And Jake's like, what does anybody know about anything? But if I had to guess, I would guess that you were on the bottom, and Lucas, and you were on the bottom when Mr. Kelly broke it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I know that he's just, like, staring at Lucas when Lucas comes in, and
Mm.
then before, like, he leaves, he's just like, "This is just the start of it for you," and I'm just like, "Why do you always have to do some villainous one more thing to say, Nathan?
Yeah.
Stop.
Well,
Just
no,
look at him and be intimidating and walk away."
exactly. Well, another thing that I really like about this scene is because you brought up the fact that Whitey comes in and he's like, Jagelski, when you find the pumps to go with your skirt, you'll join us in the gym. I think it's so funny.
I'm just like, "You guys don't even understand what it takes. I wish you would wear pumps and a skirt,
Yeah.
then make that joke."
Yeah.
But no, I'm kidding. Then so then what is it? The roof with Haley, and she's just
Mhm.
like, basically, is like, "Oh, how was the amnesia?" I can't remember the exact quote. She's like, "'Cause you didn't mention getting in a fight." Like, so I think that's when Lucas says basically he wants everything to go back to the way they were, but I didn't write down like exact quotes for it. But that was just kind of the gist of the scene that I wrote down.
Yeah, no, like he kind of tells her that he wishes things could just go back to the way they were.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I mean, you guys just literally started. You guys can you can go back to the
Yeah.
things that way. Oh my God, I cannot talk. You can go back to the way that things were if you really wanted to. We're only in
Yeah, it's like
episode 2.
you can. You just stop.
But yeah, no, I do. It is a very small scene, but I do kind of like it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like seeing it from like a fourth wall perspective. I'm like, you guys are in episode 2. You guys can quit whenever you want to and go back to the way things were. But so then we get the scene with Brooke and Peyton, and they're in Peyton's room. And
Yeah, like, and I know obviously like this is a fan favorite character because she's in like every other episode, but I don't really get much from her in episode 2, but I'm excited to see where her character goes because in episode 2 she kind of just comes off as a little dumb.
yeah. Well, and that's why I
Typical.
kind of wanted to dig into the scene a little bit because I told you before we started recording, there was something that I remember Sophia Bush saying on the Drama Queens podcast on this episode. She talks about that. Uh, but once we get into like the scene, we can talk more about that.
Yeah.
But I like how she jokes with Peyton where she's like, I kind of love that you and Lucas or that you and Nathan are fighting again. And Peyton's like, why? And she's like, because I always get good music.
Yeah, and this scene I feel can be taken 2 ways. It's either she's actually dumb, which I don't think if that's actually the case considering she becomes a big fan favorite, or she's being very sarcastic and everything she says in here is basically like, "Let me just be very dramatic," and actually none
Yeah.
of this is even serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then she goes on to say that she's like, "It's too bad that Lucas is poor and can't play because he is fine."
Yeah, and then I like too where it's like, the thing about the music that you mentioned,
Oh, she's
because
like,
she
"Did you
also
get the new Beyonce?"
yeah, and then, she basically calls we were talking about Peyton being the not like other girls in episode 1, and I like that she basically calls her on that. She's, just like, "I know you're all Gwen Stefani."
Yeah,
Like
plaid skirt, I'm a badass. But you know
yeah.
why we love you? Because on game night, you're there with one of us.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
basically like, "Look, I know that you're not like other girls, but you are."
Yeah. Yeah.
Peyton's just like, "Do you ever get tired of it all with, like, the popularity, high school?" And this is where I feel like you can interpret her character like the end this is where I feel like you can really interpret what she's been saying as either she is dumb or as I choose to interpret it right now is like her being very sarcastic and not taking any of it seriously. Is
Yeah.
when she says, "Yeah, I think about the future sometimes and it scares me, but then I think I'll go to college, I'll join the right sorority, I'll marry a rich guy unless I get fat."
And then I
And then
love
I'm just
Peyton's face, she's like,
she's like,
"Right."
"Yep, okay." So I'm hoping that, obviously her character's gonna grow a whole lot because, as I said, I can tell she's a fan favorite, so a lot of character growth I can tell is gonna come from this, but
Yeah.
I I'm choosing at the moment to look at it as her not taking things very seriously.
Well, so here's the part where I wanted to kinda dive into that scene a lot because there actually is a lot to look at with that scene, especially when Sophia Bush kinda put it in perspective because she talks about how when well, I think Bethany Joy Lenz, who plays Haley, brings that up because she's like, I'm sure they had like a lot of girls audition for this part, and most of them probably saw that as like, a funny tagline for a joke. But the way Sophia Bush saw it is that like she's experienced girls like this before in high school or in her normal everyday life that have these parents that are like you have to be skinny, and if you're not skinny then you can't do this, you can't do that, and all this stuff. So she kind of took real life experiences and put it into that line where she's talking about like joining the right sorority and stuff like that. It's more of like she's kind of saying it in her head but almost kind of trying to pass it off as a joke, but we kind of get
Oh,
more
okay.
so of like her as a character being like not as confident as she comes across. The same with Peyton. Like it's very subtle, but with the way Sophia Bush explained it, like she's kind of like I put real life perspective into it, and instead of making it as like a tagline for a joke, she kind of says it in a way where it's like kind of jokey, but at the same time you kind of get that that's a real fear inside her head, that she's
Okay.
not. So it's kind of more of like her passing it off as a joke, but when you look at it with that lens, she's kind of just as insecure as the rest of us are, kind of a thing.
Okay,
So,
yeah, that makes a little more sense then.
yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to tell when, like, you don't know the character that well yet. I think this was what,
Second episode or
like,
this
the
is the
2nd scene that
mhm,
she was in? Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, that was just something I kinda wanted to bring up to kinda give a little more depth to the scene because I can understand why, like, you watching it, you're kind of like, "Oh, she's kind of ditzy, she's kind of just more worried about being a cheerleader and all this stuff," but getting it from that lens of what Sophia Bush talks about on the podcast, like, you kind of get more sides to Brooke. Very subtle, of course, and it's not a long enough scene to really get much out of her, which I understand why you didn't
Mhm.
really feel like you got a whole lot out of her character. And that's, I think, the problem with season episode 2 as well is that she's not in it enough, but this is a very as you said this before we started the podcast, it is more so centered around Peyton and
Mhm.
Lucas and Karen and Keith and all these other side and Nathan. So you don't get a lot of Brooke in this episode, which is kind of a shame. But at the same time, I feel like if you try to fit a storyline with Brooke in there, it would have become way too convoluted. And this is
Yeah.
kind of Peyton's episode, if you want to be on, if I want to be honest about it, it is kind of Peyton's episode.
Yeah, that is true. So, I'm sure when episode 3, 4 rolls around, I'll get a little bit better of a feel for her character, for Brooks.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't want to
so
spoil things for future Brooke in the next couple of episodes. She is kind of a hard pill to swallow. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it more than that, but like, she's kind of hard to swallow in like the next few episodes, but she comes around. So let's just
okay.
say that. Yeah. But what were you gonna say? I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna go into the next scene
Yeah.
where Lucas is asking his uncle, like, what if he can't do it? Like, basically, like, he doesn't fit in that world, and Keith tells him that he should talk to his mom because she's going through it too. So I think that gave a little bit of a, "Hey, like, your mom's actually going through a difficult time as well," but also, we see inside Peyton's car, and he's like, "It's a rule of life. The prettier the girl, the messier the car." I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that is a messy
That
car."
is a very messy car, which is weird because
Has
her
me
room
thinking
is
about my car.
pristine.
Like, my car was immaculate in my early 20s, and then I started getting careless. I guess I got hot, I don't know.
You are hot, Kayla.
No,
You should own it.
everyone out there with a messy car, you're not a slob, you're just hot.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But I think that's so funny because her car is a mess, but her room is, like, immaculate, like, everything, like, every one of her records is lined up just so. Her entire room is, like, clean, her bed is made, like so then it's like you see her car and it's just a disaster.
Typical stereotypical woman, the bedroom is immaculate and the car's a mess,
Yeah.
and probably her desktop as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, like, amongst all the clutter, we see that Lucas spots, like, this, like, little book thing,
Mhm, yeah.
and he starts to open it up, and it's, like, a bunch of sketches that Peyton has done, and also, like, a letter that she's written to this magazine called Thud Magazine.
Okay,
Um
thank you.
No, you're good.
I couldn't make out the name of the magazine, like, I didn't go back and rewind it, and then I couldn't tell what it was later in the episode either.
Oh, no, you're good. But then Peyton catches him red-handed, and she's like, "Those are my sketches." And she, like, takes it away, and she's like, um I love how she's like says something about
How she wouldn't
how
read his
he
diary,
yeah, "I wouldn't read your
or
diary," and he's like, "I don't have a diary," and then she's like, "Dear diary, my daddy doesn't love me. PS, stay out of my stuff," and then, like, walks off. Oh,
it's just like,
man.
"Ooh." I mean, I'd be pretty pissed off too if someone's flipping through my shit.
Yeah, especially if it's, like, that personal to her, you know?
I know, like, if someone was flipping through my stories and I wasn't ready for people to see them, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Get out of there,
Like,
yeah.
get out of there."
Yeah.
I do like oh no, this is the wrong one. There's a scene before the one that I'm about to talk about. So the next scene is Dan being like, "What's this I hear about a fight? Did you win?" And he's just like, basically, Nathan's just like, he wasn't swinging at me. Like, cause he's like, "Did you get hurt or whatever?" And he's like, "No, did you?" And he's like, "What?" Nathan just says, "He wasn't swinging at me. He was swinging at you."
Yeah.
And just so there was that little scene. And I don't know if you have a whole lot to say about that one.
Um, I I don't. I mean, it is kind of a significant scene because of that line that Nathan says, but it's funny that Dan is more concerned about who won the fight,
Yeah,
than
because everything's about
his
winning.
yeah, than his son's well-being, like, uh, and so he's like, "Were you hurt?" He's like, "No." "Are you?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that scene a lot. It is very small, but then we get the scene in the cafe with, where Haley's about to sit down
Yeah.
with them to eat, and, Karen is like
She's like,
Karen is like, "Do you want to assume I did that
"Do you wanna
I"
tell me about the fight, or do you just wanna assume I know about it while I'm yelling at you?"
Yeah, and then,
Yeah.
Haley's like, "Is that the phone? I better go get that," and so she
Yeah.
leaves.
I think we've
Um
all been there, like, at our friend's house when their parents are like, they're about to get in trouble, we're just like, "Oh?"
Ooh, yeah.
Let me, You know, when you're just, like, in the other room and, like, you're hearing your friend get in trouble from the other room and you're just sitting there awkwardly wanting to leave, but not knowing if you can.
But you know what could would have made that scene kind of funny? I know it's not supposed to be, like, super comical, but it would have kind of been funny to do, like, cutaways to Haley where she's, like, in the background, like, eating while she's listening, almost like listening in on it, and that would have been kinda funny.
I'm sure that she's, I'm sure that she's snooping hardcore.
Probably, that seems like a Haleyism to me.
Yeah.
But, I do like the way she says, like, "You know, when they called me today, I thought they were talking about the wrong Scott, but then they told me they have 2 Scotts and I could take my pick."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Well, he was being a jerk." She's like, "Well, what else is new?" Basically, like,
Yeah, she's
why
like
why stoop down to his level?
yeah. Yeah.
And she asked if it had anything to do with Lucas playing poorly, and he's just like, "Well, how would you know? You weren't even there." And
Ooh,
I don't
awkward.
think I don't think Karen liked that too much. I think she just gets up and leaves if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's like, "Mom, I'm sorry," but she just walks off, and I'm like, I mean, Lucas is kinda right, she should have been there. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I would say to my mom too at that age. Like, I would have been like, "What would you know about it? You weren't even there." So,
Right, like,
trying to put your 2 cents into everything.
let's see what happens after. Oh, yeah, he sees Peyton across the street because that's where the magazine is, very conveniently, where
Yeah.
they do that, and he sees her about to go in, but then she gets scared, and then she just walks away and tosses her sketches, like, into the garbage, and then he goes out and grabs them, the little trash goblin taking all the trash.
Trash goblin. Oh, man. You just imagine Lucas just digging in the trash trying to find this little sketchbook. He's like, and he's, like, throwing trash around.
I don't know what else to call you if you're digging through the garbage unless it's a necessity.
Trash goblin. That's great. I love that.
Um, oh, the next scene where he's on the porch with his mom, I was like, "Is that the Hillary Duff pose again, only with his pajamas?"
Oh my god. I'm telling you, Kayla, he does that so many times in the show. Like, it's not even funny. Like, even Haley makes fun of him in a later season, like, where she's impersonating him, and she does that exact pose. It's so funny,
I'm
but
laughing, but I think I used to have my hands in my pocket and do the exact same thing.
because you were a
Like, in my
quirky
little
girl,
hoodie in my hoodie, always had my hood up as well,
because you were a quirky, shy girl.
because I wasn't like other girls.
Oh, man.
Um,
But I do really like the scene where they're sitting out on the porch, because she kind of explains why she couldn't go back because of Dan, and then you find out that that's where he chose to leave her.
yeah. And I like that she does kind of elaborate too, where it's like she says that she doesn't regret a single second or any day with Lucas, but that the day was just really hard because basically he chose something else other than them. And she's like, "I'm sorry that you have to hear things like that, but I don't want to lie to you either." And I like that after she's like, "I don't want to lie to you either." He says, "I'm sorry you had to live it." And I'm just like, if I ever have kids, if they're not this sweet, I swear to God.
I know, because he's so thoughtful and sweet, and it really shows a lot about the way Karen raised him compared to the way Dan raised Nathan.
Yeah,
So,
like, I don't know if I want children or not, but, like, this scene is giving me some expectations, and I know you shouldn't be putting expectations on your kids, but I'm just like, I swear if my son's not like this with me, Imma be so sad, be like, "Where did I go wrong? What did I
yeah,
do?" They're
yeah.
gonna be they're gonna be a Nathan, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh god, what happened?"
Oh god, what did I do? But it is interesting, this next scene, it was kind of one of your predictions from the last episode, and I told you it would probably be answered in episode 2, was where you were wondering why Dan thinks that Whitey's kind of out to get him, so
Yeah. I do like that, I think now I'm thinking I'm jumping ahead now to a different scene, not a different episode. But, no, like, I think this was I'm trying to find what I had written down, but basically, if you wanna explain the situation better and then I can elaborate on it, you can because you know the scene probably better than I do.
Well, he's just basically telling Nathan about, like, what happened at the state championship where he basically refused to play because Whitey was trying to tell him this is a team game and blah blah blah, and Dan was trying to tell Whitey that the team will lose without him, so he was trying to prove a point by sitting out during the game, and then they ended up losing.
Yeah, like, and I don't see how that is the coach's problem, especially the coach's problem, what, like 17, 18 years later? Who the heck knows? Like, I don't understand how this man, and I understand, like, I have some grudges that will probably hold the rest of my life because I'm a petty little bitch, but, like, there are
Yeah.
some things where I'm just like, "Really?" Like, the thing that you did yourself, that was kind of your decision to do that.
Well, and I think we talked about it in episode 1 where we talked about how Dan really hasn't grown up outside of high school. So I think Dan's mentality is he thinks that everybody else is still in high school too. So he thinks that Whitey is still using
Like,
Lucas to get back at him after all these years. And it's like,
yeah.
dude,
Like
Whitey is over it. Like, Whitey does not care about you as much as you think you do. Like, it's not
yeah.
about you, Dan.
Like, I understand holding certain grudges. Like, for example, I can understand if Karen held a grudge against Dan for abandoning his child. Like, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But when it's something like, I don't know, I guess if you're gonna hold a grudge, it should have been something that really, like, fucked with you, not something that you just did because you were basically just being like a child. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like we've all had those moments as children, but then we get older and we're like, "Man, what was I doing?" So I'm like, if you're gonna hold a grudge, shouldn't it be something a bit bigger than that?
Yeah, and unfortunately, you brought up a really good point with that. Like when we are kids but now that we're adults, we think back on those moments and we're like, wow, that was super stupid and childish. But Dan, he still thinks it's like, oh, I showed Whitey up. I proved him wrong. I showed him that I am the team and he's not the captain or he's not the coach and I blah blah
Yeah.
blah. It's like
It's
you
so weird.
clearly have never grown up a day in your life, Dan. Not one
Yeah.
day.
It's
Yeah.
just really strange. Like I
Yeah.
said, I hold grudges as well, but I feel like when I hold them, it's when someone's very much so wronged me. Is it just as bad to probably hold those grudges? Probably. But I don't think I hold many I don't even know if I hold any grudges from, like, teachers when I was a child. I have, like, bad, like, memories of, like, certain teachers, but other than that, I'm like, "Whatever. It's over. I did okay."
I certainly have some trauma because of certain teachers. Like there was a teacher, for example, he was my third grade teacher, and I'll never forget his name, and I'll never forget this moment. His name was Mr. Buron. And he was a dick, but he had like these two like huge boa constrictors in his classroom, so he'd let us like hold them. That's why I'm not really afraid of snakes. Like I'm terrified of spiders, but snakes
Oh
don't
my
bother
god.
me because
I'm
I used to
terrified of
hold his like boa constrictors. Um, but there was a day when I came into class and he had dumped everything out of my because you remember like back in the day, I don't know if this and I haven't obviously you and I have not been in high school for I would say almost 15 years now, which is crazy to think about. I'm like, God,
Yeah.
we're getting
And
old,
then
but
my last 2 years of high school, I was homeschooled/online school, so I really
yeah.
haven't been in a public high school for a long time.
Yeah, but I don't remember if they still I don't even know if they still have desks like this, especially in elementary school and middle school. They had those desks that have like the holes in like the desk was hollow inside so you could put your books underneath and put them on
Mhm.
there. So that was a desk like that. He had dumped all my stuff out on the floor and put my desk on top of all the stuff and forced me to sit on it in front of the entire class because he was trying to humiliate me.
Why?
Because he had it out for me for some reason. I don't know why.
That's so
I'd
weird.
probably have to ask my mom, but like my mom is a Karen for sure. She's a Karen Scott because she went in there and she ripped him a new one.
That's
So
so messed up. Okay,
yeah,
I could see that being a situation that you carry with your whole life. Like, I'm not saying there is nothing that teachers have done that I carry with me, but I guess, like, to the extent of if I was still living in the same town, would I be looking for ways to get back at them? No. Like,
yeah,
I have something that probably played into my fear of thinking that I'm really stupid because when I remember the summer before ninth grade, I spent some time really practicing, like, and I know it's bad to say multiplication so that I could do it quickly without counting on my fingers. And I
yeah,
was didn't want to get reliant on a calculator because I was really bad at math. Still am.
Same.
And my algebra teacher, I remember her asking me to answer one of the questions in front of class, and I was trying to work it out on paper, and she snapped at me to just use my calculator because I was I guess I was taking too long, and the whole class laughed. And so I guess that probably kind of plays into my, oh my God, if I don't know the answer right away, I must be stupid and scared of not knowing the answer and being embarrassed kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't think if I lived in the same town, sure, I carry it with me, even if, I probably shouldn't, but I don't think I'd be looking for ways to get back at her even
Yeah.
today had I lived in the same town.
Yeah, because you grow up and you're just like, it's not worth it. Like they're obviously, you know, miserable
Mm.
inside. Maybe I don't know. I think Mr. Buron was a pretty freaking miserable person, which is why he took it out on me and a lot
He
of other
sounds like
kids
he
too.
was just an ass, whereas I think my teacher was one of those people that was so smart that she couldn't understand that other people didn't, like, work at the same pace as her. Because I
Yeah,
don't think she was, like, an asshole. Your teacher sounded like an asshole.
he
Sounds like
was.
a pretty terrible person actually, but mine, I think, was more so she didn't quite know how to teach certain students who didn't understand certain things. Because I remember being like, "I don't understand this chapter." "Oh, which part?" "The whole chapter." "Which part?" Like, the whole thing, I didn't get it. "Which part?" And then I just name a number. So, hers, I think, was
Yeah,
more so just being one of those people that was so smart that she didn't necessarily know how to teach certain kids, whereas
yeah.
your teacher just sounded like a dick.
Oh, he was. He
Yeah.
was. He was just a dick. Yeah.
Yeah, but
um.
we went off on a whole
Sorry, that was a long-winded
tangent there.
tangent. Sorry, guys.
Sorry about that.
It is
Um,
relevant to the conversation, but it was a tangent. But
so the next scene, we'll move on because we spent a while on that. So
yeah,
we'll move
yeah,
on. Like, the next scene is, I think Jake kind of tells, I was about to say Nathan, Lucas, that kind of fear changes everything. And he gives Lucas a book and he's like, don't let them take it from you, or don't let them take it. And he's just like, what? Like, what?
what does that mean? And then he's like,
Yeah.
You'll know, you'll figure it out later or whatever."
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
didn't write down the name of the book, so I don't know if you did or
It's
not.
called Atlas Shrugged, and it looks like a really boring book. I'm sorry. It's like a really, really huge book. And it also, I know nothing about it, but it kind of looks boring. And I'm like, it looks something very philosophical. And I'm just like, ugh, pass. I don't know.
Ooh. So, moving on, we're just trying to get, I guess, the lesson,
Yeah.
like, get to the more meaty scenes, I guess.
Well, I
The
do
teacher.
like, oh, I'm sorry. Well, I just wanted to say
So
before we move on, though, I did like this scene with Jake and Lucas because it is a small scene, but I do like Jake as a character,
I do
especially with
hope
him.
that
Oh,
he's sorry.
no, you're
I
good.
had a thought and I just started talking and I
No,
interrupted
go
you.
for it.
Oh, sorry.
I do
I
that too. It's like ADHD brain.
yeah.
It's like, oh wait, and then
I was about to say, there wasn't anything important. I was just about to say, I hope he becomes more of a main character later on, is all I was thinking.
I won't spoil anything.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I do like the scene because it kind of shows that at least Lucas has one person that he can fall back on that's on the team that's not gonna, treat him like Nathan and the rest of the team members are. So it is nice that Lucas does have some sort of a friend to lean on in a
Mhm.
sense.
For sure.
I do like this scene for that reason. But yeah, continue, Kayla, because you were gonna go right into the next scene.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I know that we get on little tangents, so I was just trying to.
Yeah.
The next scene is the teacher has them do not the episode. Oh my gosh, the exercise again. But this time he has them write one word on a piece of paper to describe one word of what they want most in their life right now. And I don't know if you wanted to wait until the end of the episode or if you want to wait till
No,
the
we
end
can
of the
do it now.
episode. Okay.
Yeah, no, we can do it
So
now.
so we were thinking maybe we could come up with one word of what we want in our life right now. And I don't know if you want to just leave it very vague and just say what the word is, like the episode, even though we know what the characters probably want through those words, or if you
Yeah.
want to give any explanation. I don't know.
I mean, I think we can give like a vague explanation. I mean, if you want to go into like detail about why you picked that word, you totally can, or words if you pick more than one. I tried to limit it to just one word because I was like,
Yeah.
just one word to kind of go with the assignment, I guess.
Yeah. And
Even though we're not his students, it's still kind of fun to kind of, do it. So
so I'm going to ask you what your word was first.
I put love and stability.
Those are good ones.
Yeah, but I think I ultimately am gonna go with love, and it's not that I don't have love in my life, it's just I think the way that I portray love sometimes can be off-putting to people because my love language is very different to some people, like, I'm very, I'm a hugger first and foremost, so sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're a hugger," and I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "I'm not," and I'm like, "Sorry."
Oh,
Uh, and it's not so much that I don't have any love in my life, I think it's just I'm really having a hard time finding someone to start a life with and settle down with, and I think it's getting to a point in my life where I'm in my 30s now, so it is getting to a point where I'm like, I have this, like, nagging thought in the back of my head of, like, what if I don't find somebody? What if I don't find, like, that love and companionship that I want with somebody? Because I have that with, like, my friends and family for the most part, but there is a small part of me, like, in my heart, like, there is, like, an empty space in my heart that I wanna fill with somebody else,
yeah.
and I think that's the main reason why I chose to use that word instead of stability, although I do need a lot of stability in my life too, let's be real. Um, but I don't know. I feel like I look at love a lot differently than I did when I was younger. I look at it more so as like and maybe I mean I could put love and stability in the same sense because I do want some sort of stability with somebody. I want to be able to settle down with somebody, maybe possibly start a family. I don't know yet. But it's just and I know that I'm not in any rush to do it now, but it does kind of feel like, you get to that age where you're like, shoot, like I'm still not, you look back at your life of what you thought your life was going to be 15 years ago. So when I was a teenager, I thought my life was going to be a lot different than it is right now. And I'm not complaining about anything in my life, but I think when I was that age, I was very naive and I was like, "Oh, I'll have somebody by the time I'm like 24. I'll be married by the time I'm 26. Have a family and settle down and have my own house by the time I'm 30." Uh, but unfortunately, none of that has happened yet. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to find those things. And so I think that's why I chose love as the word. I'm sorry, that was very long winded and very
No, yes.
personal,
No,
but
that's fine. I think it was a good answer. I think it's one a lot of people relate to as well.
thank you. Thank you. But what is
Mhm.
yours, Kayla?
Mine, I went between 3 different words, but the one
Okay.
I chose was peace.
Ooh, I love
Um,
that.
Mainly because I have this thing of much like you, like, in a different, like, area, like, I fluctuated between, I think, happiness, peace, and success. Like, not that I'm not, like, happy overall, but I chose peace because I felt like it kind of captured all of that.
Yeah.
But the reason I did that is because I am very much someone who looks into the future and looks back a lot, and I'm very rarely in the present because I want a certain thing out of a career, and I thought that I would be there by now. My brain is very, like I said, never in the present. So I think if I could just have peace, everything else would fall together because I don't think I'd be as stressed to be like, well, I'm not where I am because if you're at peace with that, then you're not stressing about all that other stuff. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And then there's the constant nagging of those voices in your head constantly being like, "You're not good enough. You're never gonna get to where you wanna be." And
Yep.
that is a perfect word because now that you're saying that, I'm kinda kicking myself for not even thinking about that word because, like, not only do I have ADHD, but my brain just never stops. The only time I feel like my brain actually fully stops is when I'm sleeping, but even then, I'm dreaming about stuff that I'm insecure about. I'm dreaming about stuff that I wish would happen. I'm dreaming of stuff that like is not happening that I wish would be happening now. So it's like even when I'm dreaming, I'm like thinking
Your
about
brain.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
like, when
it's
I say that I'm
exhausting.
brain dead, like, if I'm like, "Sorry, I'm brain dead, my brain's just not working today," it's not that nothing's going on in there, it's just that there's a lot of different things going in there that I can't focus on what's happening in front of me.
Yeah, very much so. I'm kind of
Most of
glad
my
we
dreams are nightmares.
yeah. Yeah. Oh
Mhm.
man, I'm kind of glad that we both kind of had different words, but almost like similar sentiments and why we chose those words.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think a lot of people probably fall, like, even if we want different things, I think the feeling of maybe what we want is pretty similar a lot of times.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so
But,
anyway, if you guys wanna think about one word of what you want most in your life, kinda think about that. It was a fun little exercise, kinda hard to narrow it down to one word, but I think it's a nice little reflective exercise.
oh, definitely, and we'll be posting kinda Kayla did actually a video, and we're gonna post it on social media once episode 2 drops, and if you wanna, drop, your word in the comments, or if you wanna just keep it to yourself, if you wanna put one word in your mind right now while we're talking about it, and just kind of hold that word for yourself and no one needs to know what your word is, you can do that too. But like Kayla said, this was just a kind of a fun little exercise that I actually really thought was thought provoking and very very fun to do. So thank you for
Yeah.
coming up with that. That was good. Kayla's just
Thank
full
you,
of
One
these good
Tree Hill.
ideas. Yeah. Thank you, One Tree Hill, and thank you, Kayla, because Kayla just keeps coming up with all these ideas, and I'm like, I never thought about that. So it's really fun to have like someone else that we can bounce ideas off each other.
Yes, it's been very nice.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, moving on.
Yeah.
So, now we have Lucas at the park, and he still can't make a basket, and Nathan shows up being a show off, and he's just like, "You can't do it, can you?" And so Nathan's, like, kinda making all these baskets while taunting Lucas, and he's just like, "I've always wondered what happens when it's gone, but I've never seen anybody lose it, like, really lose it until now," and he makes another shot, and then Nathan tells him, "Hey, prove me wrong." And Lucas is basically like, "Well, I don't have to prove anything to you." Nathan just goes, "That's pathetic. Like, you already know it's over. I'd say see you at practice, but we both know you're not going to be there. Why humiliate yourself?" And then to add insult to injury, Lucas throws the ball at him and misses, and he's like, "You missed again."
I think that's kind of funny though. I know it's a really serious scene and Nathan's a dick, but I
It's
always think
funny
that's
in there,
so
though.
funny. Every time I watch it, I'm like, he did though. He did miss.
He did
Um,
miss.
oh
So,
man.
after that, we have Whitey calling for Lucas at practice, and Lucas did not show up. Unless you have a lot to add to that, do you wanna skip to the Peyton picks up her car, or
Yeah, so there is a scene in between Peyton picking up her car and Lucas not showing up where he's kind of looking through more of her sketches in her sketchbook.
Oh,
And there's
okay.
that one. I love this picture, by the way. I love this picture that she drew. And fun fact, Hillary Burton, who plays Peyton, I don't think she did any of the art in the show. I think they had an entire art department of people doing like all the artwork in her room, which is super, super cool. But I love this artwork that she made because it says they are not you, and it's one person standing out in like a room full of people. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Lucas because it's like he's the person in the picture that she sketched is like someone in an orange shirt. And it's the same, it looks like the same orange shirt that he was wearing in episode 1 when he goes to pick her up to tow her car.
Oh, see, I thought it was probably supposed to be him, but I didn't even notice the shirt from
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if that's supposed, but I'm gonna say I'm pretty positive that that's what it's supposed to be, is that it's supposed to be him in that shirt that he was wearing when he went to pick her up when they had that really
Okay.
intimate conversation for the first time. But I love some of her artwork that's in this sketchbook. So, but then as
Yeah.
you were saying, Kayla, we get to the scene where Peyton comes to collect her car.
Yeah. Like, Lucas gives her sketches, and he says that he thought someone should see them, and he asked why she didn't submit them because they're good, and she goes, "It's not good enough. I just wanna draw something that." Well, I think I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but basically the gist of it is, like, she doesn't take her sketchbook, and he ends up before she leaves, he's like, "Why? They're good." And she says, "It's not good enough. I wanna draw something that means something to someone. I wanna draw blind faith or a fading summer or just a moment of clarity. It's like when you go and you see a really great band live for the first time and nobody's saying it, but everyone is thinking it. We have something to believe in again. I wanna draw that feeling, but I can't. And if I can't be great at it, then I don't wanna ruin it. It's too important to me." And I thought that
Yeah.
was very struggling artist of no matter what you're doing, like drawing, painting, music, writing, very sometimes you just do feel like you're not good enough, and if you
Yeah.
can't be good enough, then why would you wanna ruin something?
Yeah.
I know he's just like, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah, and I find that scene very powerful because, we can all relate, like you were just saying, like anyone who's, an artist or even like doing just something that they're passionate about in general, like playing basketball or doing a sport or, racing car or whatever you're passionate about that you like doing. Most of us, if not all of us, have that thought in our brains sometimes that we're like, why do I do this if I'm not good enough to do it? If I'm not good enough to do it, then I don't want to ruin it in a sense. And so like what she says like speaks so many volumes. And I really like that exchange that she has with Lucas because it really feels like that's what we all feel like at one point or another in our lives where we're like, well, I want to pursue this, but is it even worth it if I'm not going to be able to get to where I want to be doing it? And is that going to ruin my love and my passion for it if
Yeah.
so
So that was a very nice scene. And so but she does get into her car though. He's like, "Well, what about your sketches?" She's like, "What about them? They don't mean anything to anybody, do they?" And not to stray from the touching moment of this scene, but can we talk about how Peyton gets into the car and she has her purse on her shoulder and she just like leaves it on her shoulder as she's driving off? Like, who does that?
I wrote that in my notes too. That drove me crazy because I'm like, you'd just be sitting there like constantly, like if it's like falling off your shoulder, you'd be like, oh, like I would just have thrown it in the seat next to me. Like I don't know why she kept it
Like,
on.
the little things in shows sometimes bug me, and I can't tell you why. Just like Andrew and I were watching Bates Motel, like season 1 the other day, and the mom's like, talking about how she took an extra. She's like, "I made an extra turkey pot pie." I'm like, "One does not make an extra turkey pot pie. Do you know how much work goes into that? You specifically made 2 of them so you could take one to somebody. One
Yeah.
does not just, 'Oopsie, I made 2 of them.'" So it's like, for some reason, this falls into one of those things that irrationally just gets
Just
to me.
irritated you. Yeah, I know. No, I you and I obviously feel the same way about it. We have very strong feelings about the way she decided to leave her purse on her shoulder as she's driving
It was
because
criminal.
I was like, "Girl, what are you doing? Take that thing off."
Like, that
Like
should be in the driver's handbook. If it's not already, like, rule number 1, do not drive with your purse on your shoulder.
exactly, like, it's just so like you said, it is so little, but it's like, to people like us sometimes when, like, certain things like that just drive us crazy. That drove me absolutely insane, and it drives me absolutely insane every time I watch the show back. It's like, "Girl."
He
And then
has
it's
this,
like
like,
it's
really nice moment, and then it's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
they have a really nice moment, but then at the end of it, you're focusing so much on the fact that she has a purse strapped around her shoulder, it's just so, ugh, I don't know,
Um,
man.
and then to quote Whitey coming up in the next scene, because this is how, I didn't feel this way about knocking first, about the purse being on the shoulder, but he's like, "People who value their lives usually knock first." And so that is when we have Dan come in, and Whitey's just like, "Oh, that explains it," which I thought was funny. I didn't catch the first time around.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
"Oh, he just, like, insulted you so much."
yeah. Well, and then he's trying to, like, convince Whitey to stop humiliating Lucas and that he knows that like, he feels like he has it out for him and that they should just, stop whatever this feud is between them. And,
Yeah, and he
what
did say, like, "You're humiliate like, you went and humiliated Karen's son." And Whitey's just like,
right.
"Karen's son." It's a very convenient way of putting it. It might interest you to know that Karen's son has taken himself off the team. Make you happy, Danny, seeing the demise of a kid that you fathered and then abandoned.
Oof.
Shots fired in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, it's rough, but it's so true. So,
Yeah.
Whitey Durham speaking the truth.
And then, like, when before Dan leaves, he's like, "You're just destroying kids' lives left and right, aren't you?" After he mentions moving Nathan back to shooting guard. And Dan goes, "Well, you've made a career out of it." I'm like, exactly how did he ruin your life when you decided to sit out of a game? Unless there's something coming up in the future, I hate you.
I hate you, plain and simple, Dan. You're a piece of shit, and we hate you. So,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, so after that scene, we get the scene of the teacher we get like this montage of the teacher reading all of the cards that the students wrote. So we get to Peyton who wrote truth. And as it's showing
She's
Peyton, she's just tearing all of her artwork off the wall.
yeah, been
And
there, like, did you relate to that at all? Because at least I know you've at least written some, I don't know how much you write.
yeah.
Did you relate to that?
Yeah, it's more so me just like as like when I'm writing something, I just like, oh, this looks like this is shit, so I'm just gonna delete it all.
I've literally burnt entire, like 400 pages of a manuscript that I thought was shit. Andrew is just like, "Kayla, if you hate it, just burn it out." Just he's like, "You're crying, you're breaking down, just burn it and get it out." Which probably
Yeah.
isn't advised to burn things for fire hazard reasons,
Sometimes
but
it's kind of fun though.
yeah.
Very
And
cathartic.
then it is. I stopped crying and then had a good time after that, so,
There you go.
and then Nathan's word was revenge as he's sitting there lifting his weights, because
Mhm.
that's how you do it.
Yep.
And then you wanna say
Oh yeah, and then
Lucas's?
we get Lucas who puts down answers and he's sitting on one of the benches at the river court kind of pondering on his thoughts. And then this is when we get that scene with him and Whitey, where he's like, "We missed you at practice," and Lucas is like, "I can't do this." And
Mm,
Whitey kind of divulges his regrets about not taking certain jobs, like other
mhm.
coaching jobs. And he basically tells Lucas, he's like, "You're on my team until tip off. The rest is up to you."
Yeah, that was a
So
good scene.
it was a good scene. I think I just have to say I really love Whitey as a character. I
Yeah, I
really
do.
do.
Like, I liked him in episode 1, but I really like him in episode 2.
Me
Um,
too.
and then we get to the scene where Peyton and why do I keep mixing up their names? Peyton and Nathan
Yeah.
are in her room, and he's just like, "You've got some ugly toes, girl. They look like fingers." I'm like, "Represent us bitches with finger toes. Been picking up shit with my feet since I was a kid."
Witch's toes, as my roommate slash friend would call them. He says I have witch's toes. He's like, "You have
Witch's
witch's
toes.
toes." I'm like, that's mean.
You're
But
like,
also, can we
he's just jealous because we could pick shit up with our toes. Like, come on, man.
exactly. Exactly. But also on the topic of like nitpicking certain little things that really drive us up the wall, it drives me up the wall the way he's painting Peyton's toenails because just the way he's doing it, I'm just like, that looks sloppy as fuck. And why is she letting you paint her toenails again if you're not very good at it? I don't know. It just
Well,
drove me up the wall the way he's like
ugh,
doing it. Like, ugh, it
I
just
didn't
drives me
even
crazy.
notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm glad I didn't, though. I
Yeah.
like how, though, when he tells her about he basically is like, "They look like fingers." She's like, "Then just focus on the middle one." It's what I should have told people in high
Yeah.
school. I didn't
Same.
like to wear like, sandals for the longest time because everyone would always be like, your toes look like fingers." I'm just like, "Fine, yeah." And I
Yeah,
got
people
older
are
and
so
realized a lot of
mean.
people's toes look like fingers.
Yes.
Not literally like the fingers on my hand, but, exaggerated,
Yeah,
like it's an
exactly.
exaggerated way of saying what toes look like.
Yeah.
But, you know what, we're talking too much about feet here. Let's, like, move on because
Yeah,
that
that's
is
we neither one of us have foot fetishes that I know. I know I don't. I don't know about Kayla,
no, I
but
actually hate them.
mm,
And I think
mhm.
that, it was just a really weird thing and a very random thing, and that's why I was like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
because I focus on very random things and scenes, but no, I actually hate them. If we could all
Yeah.
have 4 hands, fantastic.
That would be super creepy though. I'm just imagining hands where our feet should be, and that is creeping me out. I do not like the visual at all. Don't like it.
It's
So
alright.
thank you for Kayla for putting that thought in my head where
You're welcome.
what nightmares are made of. Thank you,
It's
Kayla.
what I'm here for. So, he tells her that he's thinking of quitting the team because he just doesn't even like it anymore, and that he says that Whitey can't stand him and that he's never good enough for his dad, and I felt really bad here because for both of them, actually.
Yeah.
'Cause Peyton kinda perks up and she gets, like, really excited, and she goes, "I think you should. You should quit the team, and I'll quit cheerleading, and then we can just walk away from it," and she's like, "Nathan, let's do it." And he's just basically like, Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And I don't even think he's meaning it to be mean. I think it's more so he literally doesn't think that he has
A
a
choice.
choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
so and I feel really bad because you can kinda see that. You can see sh that really wanting to have a moment of connection with him and, like, being excited of, oh, they don't have to do this thing that they've been doing back and forth for so long, and
Yeah.
then also him not feeling like he has a choice.
Well, I also like the fact that, like, you see again, what we said about Nathan having kind of more of a soft side as well. It's very subtle, but in this scene, it's actually less subtle. And, it almost seems like he, is very getting very vulnerable. But then it's like one of those things where it's like, no, I have to be a man and I have to act like a man. So he kind of passes it off as like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Like when she's like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's just do it. It was especially back in like the early 2000s and even earlier on than that, like men were expected to act a certain way.
Oh, yeah,
Like men were
for
not allowed
sure.
to show emotion. You're not allowed to be anything other than a manly man. And so I think that's like why a lot of the reason why Nathan, kind of makes that like remark at the end where he's like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, is like he kind of snaps back out of it. And he's like, no, I need to act like a man, I guess, is
Yeah.
how I saw that scene in a sense.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense too. I think you're probably right about that.
Yeah.
So then we go on to a very non-serious scene where Haley asks Lucas if he ever figured out his porn name. And it's where you take the name of your first pet and your mother's maiden name. And so Lucas's is Rocket Row and Haley's is Bunny Regard.
Which I kind of love. I love Bunny
Yeah.
Brigard. I kind of like that name a lot.
And then she goes, Dawson's Creek starring Rocket Row and Benny Bigard, which doesn't really help my theory of the first episode of thinking that she liked him. But at the same time, I don't get that feeling in episode 2. But if this were
Yeah.
in episode 1, that definitely didn't help.
Yeah.
So,
But you did mention that there's a more serious side to this conversation. So take it away, Kayla.
yeah. So Haley asks if Lucas is still not going to play or still not playing, and he says no. Like he's like, I've never walked away from anything before. But he says he just can't do it. But to make it worse, he doesn't know why he can't. And
Yeah.
I know Haley basically says, I know one thing, like you're gonna be basically he's gonna be the same guy whether he's in uniform or not, is what I got from that.
I do like that scene between them because, she's encouraging him to continue playing regardless of his apprehensions. And I like that she's the supportive friend that's always going to tell him what, the truth and how she's feeling. And, but she also doesn't like push him. Like she doesn't pressure him to do it. She's kind of saying whatever you want to do is your choice, but it almost feels like she's telling him like he's going to regret it if he doesn't.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I saw it.
Like putting on a uniform isn't gonna change who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and which kind of bleeds perfectly into this next scene because then we get the scene with him and with Lucas and Karen where he's in his room sitting on his bed and Karen is walking by and he's basically saying, I can't do it. I'm sorry. And she's like, well, I took the night off to see my son play basketball.
Yeah.
And,
This scene almost made me cry.
oh, it made me cry. Even though I've seen the show 14 times, it still makes me cry.
Mhm.
Cause he talks about, she's like, do you remember what you told me when you came home that day? And he said, I didn't want to see his face. And that he felt like Dan had a piece of him and he
Yeah.
didn't want to become like Dan. So
And
that's a lot of the reason why he quit playing.
yeah, that was a very emotional scene.
It is. But then Karen says it's hard to fight the things we are afraid of. Sometimes you just need a little bit of help.
Yeah. It was nice. That
It's a
was a
very
nice
sweet scene.
It was. Moving on from that, we have Lucas taking Peyton's sketchbook to the person who works at the magazine, whatever it's called. What
Which
is it?
it's Thud magazine, but I have some thoughts
Thank you.
about the scene. Why the hell are you running up to some random guy from behind in the middle of the night as he's closing up and be like, hey, and then grabbing him by the shoulder? If I was that guy that was closing up shop at Thud, I would have probably punched him in the face because you don't come at and even my roommate Alex, when he was watching this episode with me, he was like, why did he do it like that? That is so weird. You don't do that to
Yeah.
people.
It's the dramatics of television.
Yeah. Well, and then the guy just
Well,
acts like it's completely natural that this random person just walked up to him and he's like, check these out. You won't be disappointed. And the guy's just like, Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm like,
Well, I was gonna say, like, what do you think of him giving the sketches to him? Because me, like, on one hand, I'm like, I know you probably shouldn't be doing that without someone's permission, but on the other hand, I'm like, he saw something in her art and he's trying to help her. So what are your
yeah.
thoughts on that? I feel like back in the back in the day, I feel like back in 2003, it was a very sweet thing, but I feel like if people, specifically, like, people, like, 10 years younger than us,
Mm.
would probably be saying he shouldn't have done that. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I do think that it does cross a little bit of boundaries as far as like doing something without Peyton's consent, but at the same time, if I'm putting myself in Lucas's situation and how I am as a person personally, I think I would have done the same thing because there are certain people in my life that I know they were born to do something better than what they're doing. So for
Mhm.
example, like I'm going to put myself in the shoes of like you and I, where it's like if you were wanting to write or publish a book, but you were too afraid to, you were too afraid to give it to anybody because you didn't think it was good enough. But then say you give me the book to read and I read it and I'm like, oh my God, this book is amazing. Like you have so much potential. It would be hard for me not to want to take that book to a publisher and be like, you should look at this. She's very
Yeah.
talented. You won't be disappointed, kind of a thing. And I know you'd probably be upset with me a little bit, but at the same time, it's like I would want to show you how much your words and your work mean to other people, and that you may not feel like it means anything to anybody, but deep down it really does. Like it really like what you do matters. Not to spoil a quote towards the end, but what I just said kind of was a quote that Lucas says late a little bit later. But I don't know, putting myself in Lucas's shoes, I would probably do the same.
Yeah, like, I think it definitely came from a good place, but I know sometimes I watch shows and I think about, how would people react to this today? But
Yeah.
I personally think it was, yes, it probably did cross a boundary, but I also think it was coming from a good place. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there definitely wasn't any like malice or
I think
bad.
ultimately it was probably a good thing to do. I think having somebody probably look at her art, that's probably the hardest part, is just getting that first person to look at it.
Yeah,
So, I don't know.
for sure.
I don't know, a little question for everyone to think about, I guess.
Yeah.
Then we have Haley seeing Lucas running off, and they know that he's going to the game. And then Dan's telling Nathan to put everyone else out of his head during the game, and oh, like, they're scared of you. I'm like, sure, guy. Um,
Yeah, but I do like that scene because it's almost like Nathan is like zoning him out because he's so tired of hearing all this from Dan that he's kind of just tuning him out. But you can kind of hear Dan in the background, like his voice is it sounds like he's underwater, kind of.
at this point, Nathan is feeling what we're feeling. Or
We're
I
like,
guess
shut up.
at this point we're feeling what he's feeling, I guess is what I should say.
Yeah, we're like, Jan, just shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Do you do nothing else but sit on your ass and watch basketball games and hound your son for hours and hours on end? Do you not have any hobbies, Dan?
Like, go join a basketball team. I'm sure that there are some other people in your town who played basketball in high school who would love to be like, have a game. Like, go do that. I don't
I
know.
know.
Just go
Yeah,
have a
it's
hobby outside of criticizing your child,
go out and do what, we usually say in this day and age. Go out and touch some grass, Dan.
right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's
That man is so infuriating. But
mhm.
so Peyton shows up to the game, and then we see, I guess, Lucan, who's Lucan? I don't know. But we see we see Lucas, and I think he's in the hallway of the school, and Dan calls, he's just like, "Son." And at that point, I'm like, "You're doing this to fuck with him, aren't you?
Yeah.
Piece of shit." And I think that might also be the same scene where Jake says, "Don't let them take it," meaning like his talent.
Yeah, yeah.
Because,
Well,
yeah.
Lucas is a much better person than I am because if he would have because he hands Lucas Nathan's like bag and he's like, give this to my son, will ya? If I was Lucas, I would have dropped it right there on the floor and been like, no, you can get it and just walk away. The fact that Lucas takes it, I'm like, oh, you're a much better person than I am.
I know.
Fuck that guy. Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Oh my gosh.
But so then we have It's supposed to be Karen shows up to the game, but for some reason I wrote Crane shows up to the game and sees Dan. So Crane shows up and sees Dan. And then this is also kind of made me like almost cry when
Mhm.
Lucas tells Peyton, like, your art matters. It's what got me here. And I'm just like, oh, so sweet.
Yeah. I think we should get that made into shirts, into a
Yeah,
shirt.
it's so sweet.
Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot. But then we get like that whole like bombshell of him kind of looking at Dan. They're kind of having a stare down between each other. And then Lucas turns around and you realize that he's ripped off Scott off the back of his jersey. And
Yes.
Dan looks like dumbfounded. He's like, wow.
It's
Like
very
they're
powerful.
very, very powerful. And then you see like the shot of like the patch with Scott like falling to the floor,
Like, when
which
you
is
have
great.
an absent parent in your life and you have their last name, sometimes you even if you love that parent who's absent in your life, Lucas doesn't really have love for Dan, I'd imagine, but, like, even if you
Yeah.
have love for your parent who's absent from your life, sometimes when you have their last name, it just feels like a constant reminder of what you don't have and what's been missing, and just getting rid of it just can lift a whole lot off of your shoulders.
Oh, for sure. Like it
Um,
definitely takes away that burden of feeling all those feelings. And I think that's supposed to be like kind of show the metaphor of that patch kind of falling to the ground is kind of supposed to show like all of the weight that Lucas has been carrying kind of just
mhm.
falling off his shoulders and falling to the ground kind of a thing. I really like that like visual metaphor, and I really just like the bombshell of like seeing that for the first time. I actually almost my roommate had an idea for me to kind of turn the jersey around to where it says Scott, and then he says you should block it
Oh.
out. And I was gonna do that, but then I was like, well, I don't know how many people are gonna watch the video version, so I don't even know if that would matter. But I that
It
was like
would've
a
been
really yeah,
yeah, that would've been really good, though.
I
Yeah.
know. I should have
So,
listened to my roommate. That's Alex's
give him
idea. Shout out to Alex. He has some
yeah,
good
shout
ideas
out.
too. Yeah.
Um,
um uh,
so that was the end of season 1, episode 2. Yeah.
yes.
What would you I think IMDb gave this, let
I
me
think it's a
see,
7.9.
7.9, which is bizarre to me because I liked this a lot better than the first episode. So what would you rate this episode?
I gave this episode an 8.5 out of 10.
I also gave it an 8.5.
Woo! Right on the
Woo!
money today. We got it. Um,
So, I
I would
guess
even say, oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, I
I
was
was
about to
gonna
say, so I guess it's an 8.5.
No, it's good. Well, I was gonna say, like, even more so, like, discussing and delving more into the episode deeper with you. How comfortable would you be with us putting it at a 9 out of 10 instead? Because I think after our discussion and kind of delving deeper into certain scenes and kind of like talking about things that we may not have picked up on and kind of getting into a lot of detail, I would give this episode easily a 9 out of 10.
I think I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're gonna move our rating up to a 9 from an
9.
8.5 to a 9 out of 10.
Yes.
I think the one thing that would have made this episode better if Sophia Bush was in it more.
Yeah, just give me a little bit more. I don't really know anything about her character right now, except
Give
for she
me
doesn't wanna get fat.
yeah. Give us more give us a little bit of more of Brooke, but I promise you in episode 3 we definitely get a lot of Brooke. So,
Yeah.
stay tuned for that.
Alright. So, you wanna go to what do you wanna do now? Like, favorite scenes, characters, quotes?
Um, the way I have it written on mine is I have memorable quotes next, if that's okay with
Okay.
you, of course.
Yes. So,
Okay.
we're gonna have you go first then.
Okay. So the first one I have, this one isn't like anything super important, but I just like the way that Sophia Bush delivers this line. So I have, Peyton, I know you're all Gwen Stefani, plaid skirt, I'm a badass, but we love you anyways. And you know why? Because Friday night when it's game time, there you are, one of us. And then I have the P.S. Gwen Stefani's not a badass. That's what Peyton says back. I don't know. I really like that line. I think it's kind of fun. And I love the way that Sophia Bush delivers it. So
That's a good one. Yeah. I think I'm
yeah.
gonna start with a not as serious one myself then.
Okay.
Okay, this one is from Whitey, and it's I'd stand up every time I do, somebody kicks me in the ass for putting you on the team.
sit down. Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
Michael's gonna give us a Whitey impression every episode.
Do you want me to? I can try.
I do.
Oh my gosh. I would stand up, but every time I do, somebody kicks me in the ass for putting you on the team. Sit down.
Yeah.
Woo. um, so my next quote is something a little more serious. This is actually probably my second favorite quote in the episode, and it's the one that Peyton says when she says, "I want to draw something that means something to somebody or to someone. I want to draw a blind faith or a fading summer or just a moment of clarity." It's like when you go and see a really great band live for the first time and nobody is saying it, but everyone is thinking it. We have something to believe in again. I want to draw that feeling, but I can't. And if I can't be great at it, I don't want to ruin it. It's too important to me.
I had that one down too.
It's
Yes.
such a good freaking
It's a
quote.
really good one. It
Yeah.
is. I like that one so much. I have another one, and Whitey just made it in here a few times for me.
Ooh, okay.
The quote I have here is when he was talking to Lucas, and he says, actually, I don't think I wrote down the full quote, so let me go find it, actually. I wrote down part of it.
It might be the same one that I have written down, but we'll see.
Oh, well, I'll just say what I have written down. It has, could have beens have a way of doing that. And the other part of the quote, which I can't find at the moment, is when he was, I don't know if it's exactly in the same like sentence or like paragraph, but where he says that the things that keep him up at night were, not the 35 seasons that he won, but the college jobs that he didn't take. And then he said, could have beens have a way of doing that.
Yeah, I like that quote too. The quote that I have that I was thinking you were going to talk about, I don't know if Whitey says this or if it's Keith. I'm trying to remember. Does Keith say the line, "There's no shame in being afraid. Hell, we're all afraid. What you got to do is figure out what you're afraid of, because when you put a face on it, you can beat it. Better yet, you can use it."
It's Whitey. That was my third Whitey quote. Yeah.
I love that quote.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was Whitey.
Yeah.
And yep, that one made it on my list as well.
Wonderful. What's your next one then?
Okay, let's see. I think, I can't remember if you said this one or not. I know that I can't remember if it's in the same quote or not, where Peyton says, if I can't be great at it, then I don't want to ruin it. It's too important to me.
Oh, yeah. I did say that.
Okay.
What's your next one?
My next one was Karen, where she said, it's hard to fight the things we're afraid of. Sometimes we just need a little help.
I have that one too.
You have that one too?
Me and Kayla are right on the money today. We got the same rating. We got the same quotes.
So I have one more. How many more do you have?
I have like 4 more. Oh, 3 more. 3 more.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want to go ahead then?
Sure. I have the one that Nathan says to Lucas right before they go out to play the game in the opening scene, where he's like, "You want my world? You got it." I don't know why I like that. I like that quote a lot for some reason, because he's like, "You wanted my world, man. So now you got it. So here we go."
Yeah,
kind of almost saying like, grass isn't always greener on the other side, man. You wanted this, so be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah, I like that line. I know it's very simple, but
no,
it stuck out for me.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Thank you. So what's your last one?
My last one is your art matters. It's what got me here.
Yes, that is one of mine as well. And I knew you were going to have that on there. So that's why I said I only have 3 quotes left, because I knew you were going to say it. So I'm just like, yeah, that is my favorite quote of the whole episode though. So I love that episode. I love that quote.
It gets me in my feelings.
Me too. This one's not as serious. It's the nice hands, nice legs. I love that part. I don't know why it's so
that was funny.
Yeah. But the last quote I have is like the closing quote of the episode. It's when Lucas Scott says, "Do not let your fire go out, sparked by irreplaceable spark in the hopeless swamps of the not quite, the not yet, and the not at all. Do not let the hero in your soul perish in lonely frustration for the life you deserved and have never been able to reach. The world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It is yours." So save the best for last. Well, It's not the best quote in the show, but it is very, very good. So, moving on to favorite characters of the episode. Who were your favorite characters in this episode?
Okay, so I actually have 4 in this one.
So do I.
So we have Lucas, Karen, Whitey, and Peyton. Yep.
Nice.
And what was
So I have Peyton, Lucas, Jake, and Whitey. I did originally have Brooke on there, but I was like, no, I cannot
Mhm.
let my biases tell me that Brooke
You're
was my
like, "Not
favorite
yet."
because she's not in it that much. So
Mm,
Michael,
mhm. Not yet,
control
not yet.
yourself. Yeah, I had Brooke down on here because obviously I love her, but I'm like, I'm not gonna let my biases control the way I, you know, put characters on the episode. So yeah, so Brooke's not on there, but it is Peyton, Lucas, Jake, and Whitey.
No,
So
you were strong.
I was strong in my convictions. So
So, now we have favorite scenes.
take it away, Kayla.
Okay, well, my first one that I have down is the scene where Karen tells Lucas that the gym is where basically everything changed and Dan chose, something else over them. And Lucas says that he's sorry she had to live it. So I thought that was very sweet.
I have that scene as well.
Right.
I also have the scene of it's the scene where Peyton comes to pick up her car and she has that like line about like if I'm not gonna be great at it, then I don't want to ruin it. That whole
Yep.
scene is great. I love that scene so much.
Yep, I had that one as well.
I think it might actually be my favorite scene of the entire episode.
Really?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good. See that I was
because a
gonna say
lot
it's
of
high up there for me.
yeah, well, because a lot of that scene really speaks true to me is how I view my art and the way that I do things. Like I have that battle in my mind of like, no, it's not good enough. Why should I even try if it's not going to be my best and like all this stuff. So I constantly go through that battle that Peyton is going through when she talks to Lucas. So that scene really sticks out to me and yeah, it's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that, but I think I actually related it more so in a different scene somehow because
Ooh.
it was the one where Whitey is talking to Lucas and he says, "Could have beens have a way of doing that." And like I said, I have a habit of living in the past and the future, but not the present. So I am constantly thinking about, oh, well, what if I would have just stuck with writing and didn't really go to college because my college degree didn't really get me anywhere. So what if I would have just stuck with writing and I could have been writing all those, you know, it took me a little longer to graduate college because I wasn't going full time for the longest time,
Yeah.
like 6 years. And I could have maybe been a lot further in my career and I could have, but also my life would have been different. I might have not have ended up where I'm at now, but it's like also you wonder what could have your career been had you taken different steps. So
Yeah.
that one was a lot for me.
That is one of my scenes that I have on as well. And then I also have the ending scene, though it is like really short and sweet. I just love the reveal of the fact that he took that name off the back of his jersey and then what he tells Peyton when he tells her her art matters. That's what
Yeah,
got me here. Oh, such a good ending to this episode.
I think I don't know if that one is my favorite scene or if the one I just mentioned is my favorite scene, but it's between those 2.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the scene that I mentioned about the could have beens there's where I think I wrote down my quotes on accident. I put it in my scenes
Oops.
instead of my quotes.
Oopsie.
Um, but my other one was where Nathan is saying, like, he doesn't even really want to be on the team anymore, basically. And Peyton's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, let's quit. Cause I felt like we saw a side of Nathan that we didn't really see before in
Yeah.
that scene. So I really enjoyed that one.
I have that one down as my last one as
Mm.
well. So yeah,
So
I thought that scene was great. And then I guess for a bonus scene that I like the scene with Peyton and Brooke in her room. And like, especially when you like learn about more of the context of what Sophia Bush was trying to portray in that scene, it just makes me love that scene even more, even though it's very, to some people, it's very surface level and it
yeah.
can sound very surface level, but there is a lot of meaning behind the words that Brooke is actually saying in the scene that aren't spelled out to you in a sense. It's very subtle, but
Yeah.
you do get like a small glimpse of her character just with what she's saying in that small scene. I really like that. So that's a bonus. That's a bonus one for me. I know I kind of came up with that one on the spot, but I do kind of like that one.
I think I'll probably have a bigger appreciation for it once I get to know Brooke a little more.
Well, I can say that you definitely will. So, um, but yeah. So with all that out of the way, I think, I mean, unless you have any final thoughts. Oh, predictions. I almost
Oh.
forgot again. I'm so bad at this.
Oh,
I will get this by
shoot.
episode 3. I completely forgot that you had predictions. Do you want to talk about the predictions that you had for this episode that you feel like you got right? And then we can talk about the predictions that you have for episode 3.
Well, the ones I feel like I got right. Oh, did I even get any of them right? I don't remember.
Well, I think I
I know I
mentioned it.
got the one wrong. I know the ones I got wrong.
Well, the one with mouth where you kind of made that it wasn't really a flat out prediction. You just kind of guessed that his character would have a YouTube channel in this day and age. But I mean, he kind of has like the equivalent of it of what
That's
it would have
true.
been back in like 2003. So you were right about that one.
Yeah. I thought that I was right about the Brooke thing just because of the first thing that we heard her say about he looks good from behind. But
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure I was right about that. So
We'll find out.
there was something and I should have written it down, but I was like, no, I'm gonna remember this because this is so in my head and I don't remember
Yeah.
what my prediction was. But I'm trying to think, what do I think is going to happen in episode 3? Well, I think Lucas is going to maybe settle in a little more with
Hmm.
the team. Maybe not with all of the team, definitely not with Nathan, but with Jake and maybe one or two other people, maybe, possibly,
Who are these
but
one or two other people?
I don't know yet.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know yet. Yeah.
I thought you were just being like what's the word? Mysterious about it.
Oh, no, I think maybe he's going to settle in a little bit. I think that it's possible that if Peyton and Nathan are still together and Brooke doesn't see that Peyton has a thing for him, it's possible there's going to be something maybe on Brooke's part, but not on Lucas's part. But
I don't
I
know.
don't know. We'll
We'll
see.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are all your predictions?
I think Lucas is going to get his stride back a little bit in basketball too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good prediction.
Mhm.
Well, I think we'll find out if some of your predictions came through in episode 3. So we'll
Yes.
just have to wait and see. But with that being said, Kayla, I had a really fun time. I mean, all things aside, I know we were both very distracted, me specifically, but I still had a really fun time recording this episode with you. I think I'm going to have one hell of a time editing it though, but that's neither here nor there. But
Mm.
I had a really good time. Thank you again for being a part of this with me and talking about episode 2 with me today. And before we go, we do want to shout out our social medias. So for myself, I do have another podcast called the We Love Horror Podcast. I am streaming anywhere that you listen to podcasts. I have an Instagram page called the We Love Horror Podcast if you want to follow me on there. I believe it's the same for TikTok as well. And then we do have our own Unkindness of Ravens TikTok and Instagram pages. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's an Unkindness of Ravens pod with underscores in between each word. And then on TikTok, it's just an Unkindness of Ravens pod with periods in between each word.
Yes.
So why I didn't do each one the same exact as the other one, I don't know. But I like to do things difficult. I like to make things difficult for myself and other people. So,
Keeps you on your toes.
it does. Yeah, it makes things more interesting. Mix it up a little bit. But what about you, Kayla?
Oh, okay. I have my Instagram is Kayla D Writes, and then I have a YouTube channel. I had to think about what that was called for a second. I am my brain called Stories by Kayla.
Yes.
And
Check
yes.
her out. She's amazing. She's incredible. Um, I love having her as my podcast co-host and my friend. So yeah, thank you, Kayla.